Everyone can stand for a flag salute, please.
I pledge allegiance to the
To the
flag
flag of the United America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to welcome everybody to the first budget meeting of the year on March 24th, 2022. In compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act of the State of New Jersey, adequate notice of this meeting of the Egg Harbor City Common Council was provided in the following manner. Advance written notice of this meeting was posted on the Egg Harbor City Hall bulletin board. Advance written notice of this meeting was posted on the Egg Harbor City website. Advance written notice of this meeting was sent to the Hamilton Gazette, the News, Press, and the Current. Due to the COVID-19 and social distancing requirements, the meeting is also being conducted via Zoom and conference call. The meeting is also being recorded to air on the Egg Harbor City website and Channel 97. Have a roll call, please.
Mayor Petty. Here. Brown.
Here.
Dash.
Here.
Heist. Hesse.
Here.
Sefton.
Here.
Timbers.
Here.
Tritoff.
Here.
Wright. Ritchie.
Here. All right, may I have a motion to open up the budget workshop to begin upon motion and end at 6:45 for a 15-minute intermission.
So moved.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, this time I'd like to turn it over to our CFO, Jody Khan, to begin the review of the budget.
Should I share my screen so?
Sure.
Share the right thing.
Leave it on my phone. See it.
There's an extra copy too. if you'd like.
Oh, was there?
Okay.
Okay.
Maybe that one we don't have. This is the other part.
Let the record reflect, Councilman Wright has all one.
Gotcha.
Joint the meeting.
You have the other part too?
To what?
That's one? I don't know.
The meat and potato part.
No, ma'am.
Which one was the summary? Yeah.
No, I had that.
Oh, oh, yeah.
I
Here,
took a
here.
picture on my phone.
Oh, here, you can take Brian. I made 5 extra copies too.
Maybe that's why the extra, I didn't want to print the paper, Judy. was
Oh, I think you have them right there.
Oh, I did.
Yeah. Okay, so, everyone should have this in front of you. The version that I sent out, just to kind of give a summary, right now, this has a 1 cent local tax increase. We can obviously change anything, we're not introducing anything tonight. My tentative schedule for, this is to introduce at our next meeting, which is still will not be the final version. We still have plenty of time, not plenty, but we'll have time after that to make a change, to amend it, and then we can adopt. We'll still be within the state budget calendar by adopting it at the first April meeting. So,
Adopting.
not adopting, I'm sorry, introducing, I'm sorry, thank you. Introducing at the first April meeting. So we can make changes, I'll kind of go through, usually what I do is I kind of just go through all the revenues line by line, and then I can do the same thing for the appropriations, interrupt if you have questions or anything. I did also send out a little summary of what the kind of biggest changes from line item to line item from the year before, just so everyone would kind of know what were the biggest changes. Like, as we go through. So if you want to start on the first few pages are kind of informational, or if you go to page 3B, the state makes sure they have what's called, you've probably heard before, the caps. There's 2 different caps. There's what's called the first page, 3B, is the appropriation cap. That just has to do with like some stuff is considered within the cap, it's called, and some stuff is outside the cap, like pretty much almost everything except for like debt service and capital items is now inside the cap. There used to be pretty more exceptions years ago, but there's not that many now. We don't usually have an appropriation cap problem, so as you can see, we're well under the appropriation cap. And then 3, it says, if you keep going, it says sheet 3 levy cap. That's the 2% one that was kind of like big news a few years ago, and the governor put that into play. Right now, with this tentative budget, we are under the levy cap, and that's without, even though it shows 30,000 under, we have a lot of banked cap, so even if for some, I know council would come too, but if for some reason we needed to have a larger increase than that, we could. There is banked money that we haven't used in the past.
I'm trying to
It's okay,
find,
take your time.
I'm looking at budget message.
Keep going.
Okay,
It's front and back too.
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
And budget.
The one that showed me, the level.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. And so basically you can bank, what if you don't use, like, let's say for argument's sake, this is how it stayed, we would have 30,000 that we could bank to use for future years. So whatever you don't use in the current year, you have 3 years to basically use. So if for some reason you had a really large increase in something in a year and you needed to increase taxes, but you hadn't in the past, you could have that banked. We haven't ever, once in a while, we use some bank cap, but I wouldn't say it's been anything excessive in the last few years. All right, so if you want to start at sheet 4. These are what's called the general revenues, basically local stuff that we kind of have control over. Surplus, I kept the same as last year. We actually had a really good year last year. We regenerated more than what we used. So we're in a good position with fund balance, so just kept that the same. Most of these stayed the same. Alcoholic beverages, pretty much almost the same. And also just for anyone new, like again, you can only anticipate what you realized in that. There's that column realized in cash in 2024. That's the max you can anticipate for the current year, unless you've done something like adopt an ordinance to increase fees, or if you have a reason, you can do a calculation for the state to explain why you're increasing it. But typically, the max you can do is whatever you realized the year before. You don't have to do the max. That's just the max that you can.
Jody,
Yes.
with that cannabis stuff, would that be able to be put in?
So I don't think at this point, because we don't have anything.
Okay, no, I was
Set for
just curious
sure.
if before we get.
Let's say for argument's sake, before the budget's
Yeah, that's
adopted and
what
we had something specific, yes. we can
Okay.
put that in the budget. Usually you just have to kind of I would have to do a CFO, it's called CFO certification, and I explain, and I mean, the state could always deny something, but I've never really seen that if it's pretty standard or something pretty set. Let's see, I increased interest and costs on taxes. As you can see, the interest, that's like that's interest that you want people to pay their taxes later, what's at the tax sale interest that's earned there. That went up a good amount, so I bumped that up just a little bit. Well, a little more than a little bit, but bump that up. That's the biggest change on that page. 4A, I bumped up late fees a little bit. We had a really good year last year. I didn't want to go too crazy because you never know with the weather, so I just bumped that up a little bit to help increases. I bumped up the campground royalty just a little bit. That went up a lot, but again, I like to be conservative because then it helps us regenerate surplus. If we have something goes wrong, we're not in a really bad position, so.
Excuse me, Jody, when you're saying you bumped it up, that's a realized cash.
If you look at the late fees, what was budgeted, anticipated in 2021 was 73,500, and
Right.
bumped up to 80,000 this year.
Oh,
Is what
okay,
we're budgeting.
that's, okay.
Yeah. So it went up 6,500.
So you were able to do the real,
Right, because our realized was 100,000, we theoretically could have bumped it up. The max we could have anticipated is that 101,000.
and so the year before it was 101, is that why that
That's what
realized
we,
is?
yeah, that's what we
okay.
actually earned, maybe in
Okay.
2020. Nothing on 4B, nothing 4C. If you go to sheet 5, state aid is staying the same this year as far as, well, actually it was finalized, so state aid is staying. the same. And then page, sheet, okay, I'll just fix sheet 6, for some reason, the bottom of the page went onto the second page, but that's the construction code fees. Just bump that up a little bit. That could vary obviously from year to year. Last year we had a pretty good year, while I think had to pay a lot of their permit fees at the end of last year. So didn't want to, that's a little bit closer to what we averaged. to, so sheet 9 is our grants. So they will obviously vary from year to year. They're pretty much, there's a revenue section for grants and an appropriation section for grants. They should be the same. The only thing that will be different if there is a local share or a matching part of a grant, that will only be on the appropriation side. So we'll get to the appropriations, but you can see by the time we introduce the budget, there might, or adopt the budget, there might be a few more that would get updated in here. Like we haven't gotten this year's Clean Communities amounts. Last year we didn't have it for introduction, we had it by adoption, so we'll probably have that. So if we find out any new grants before adoption, we can add that in. You kind of have a nice amount of grants already this year. Sheet 10 are some more local revenues. One of the changes on here is that coronavirus local fiscal recovery fund. Those are those ARP funds that the federal government gave out. So when I sent this out, when I did the budget last year, there was an interim rule for how you could spend the funds. There was a revenue calculation. Based on that revenue calculation, our max this year was $131,000. The final rule came out. There was a webinar I did Monday afternoon. I don't believe we're limited to that 131 anymore. However, whatever we put in this year, we only have our max amount that we got is 424,000. We used 171 in last year's budget as a revenue. We used 25,000 as a grant, so we used about 200,000 already. So that leaves 200 and basically 25,000 for whenever. So you have up through 2024, I believe, to use it. So you don't have to use it all this year and last year. So if we put in that 131, we'll have about 75,000. So we're already know that there's a hole for next year that we'll have to make up at some point. So the less we use of that, in my opinion, the better. I mean, you kind of want to use it while you have it, but just keep that in the back of your mind that whatever we put in will eventually, it's not recurring, it will have to come out.
Jody, I'm a little bit confused on that.
Sure.
What exactly is
Those
this?
are that's the federal funding for coronavirus.
Okay,
So I don't know if you remember, but last year they basically gave out money to every single entity, like local government. So we got 424,000 of coronavirus aid, basically. And there were very specific things. They kind of changed it to make it more lenient and easier and streamline the process. So if you want to use it as a revenue, basically the max amount is way less than what we got. So basically, for all intents and purposes, you can put as much revenue as you want in your budget, but only up to your max amount. And you have to do it by 2024. Does that make sense?
so you could put up to the 400?
Well, we already used 171 last year, plus 25 last year. You can use it in different ways. We used 171 as a revenue, and 25 is like a full way to fund expenditures, like if we had to buy, like for the overtime for spraying, for masks, for the spraying equipment and things like that. So we've already used about 200,000 of the 224. I mean, about 424.
So we have like,
Right, so we have
224.
basically 220.
and how long do we have to use
You
that?
can use it through 2024, I believe. Yes. So that's why even technically we probably could bump that up if we needed to, or in my opinion, it'd be better to slowly out, a little bit less this year, then at least you'll have a little bit more to slowly wean ourselves off of this. Because it just, in my opinion, kind of would become a hole for the budget. At some point we have to go. Okay. Any other change on there? The payment in lieu of taxes, we have a bunch of the Egg Harbor North pilots are starting up, so bump that up just a little bit. I don't like to get too crazy with those because at some point, once they're high for a few years, then they go back down, and especially since we don't have another phase at this point, they will definitely be coming down at some point without, at the current time, we don't have anything scheduled for the future for those.
So Jody, the pilots, they
That's-
are like,
Maintenance that new resident, like the houses that I cover North, the
oh, okay,
5-year phase in.
okay. So it's not a pilot like they have at Written Bars or
No,
anything like that? Okay.
no, that if you looked at it, that is separate on here. The Conifer pilot is a separate amount on there. That's considered like a long term, so that gets its own separate. And then the vacant property registration, obviously for right now, since we don't have anything and that has not been finalized, what that'll be, potentially that could go back in, I think, again. Kind of nice keeping it out, it's a way to replenish, have some unanticipated revenue. But again, that's something that if it's finalized by the time we adopt the budget, that is something that potentially could go back to the budget. Sheet 10N. This is the state's form, not mine. There's, as of right now, we don't have any sales of property that are finalized or contract. So if there is anything that either has occurred by the time we introduce the budget or adopt the budget, I mean, we can always amend that. And the reserve for land sales, last year, we have about 90-some thousand is what was on the books to set aside. That was back when the Egg Harbor North project first got started, a portion of the money, when a developer would take out either a building permit or I think that was how it was done. They had to put aside a certain amount of money to the city. So that was set aside, basically used to pay for debt service and things like that. So last year we used half of what was left. I know we talked about this at last year's budget. We knew at least we wouldn't have a huge hole because we'd have another half. And I said I would kind of feel confident because hopefully the water treatment plant at some point will be sold and we will be removing some of the debt from the books anyway, so that won't really be needed for debt service. And then sheet 11 is just a summary of that. Basically, the only thing that's different on there's no changes. I just left the receipts from delinquent taxes, but that's the only line that's not something that's somewhere else in the budget. Then sheet 12 starts the appropriation. Does anyone have any questions on the revenues before I go into the appropriations?
The only thing I wanted to ask you about the reserve for land sales, is that what, is it escrow?
It's just,
Is it an escrow like they had at Wawa or anything like that, or no?
No, back
Okay.
when they first, and it could be from anything, but how we got that money was back when they started the Egg Harbor North project. As part of the agreement with the developer, they had to pay like a certain amount of money at the time they took out a building permit or closing. And that was to like put money, a portion of it went back to the utility to pay for the connection fees, and a portion was to go to the current fund to like pay off debt service, and a portion went to the recreation trust. So there was like a little allocation of how like that developer fee was to be broken out. So that money is from back when the developer.
So it was completely allocated. There was no excess in that. I mean, and
Well, it
does
was
go
just
back
set
to them?
aside for certain uses. I wouldn't say excess because it's not, it wasn't like,
It's not.
there was no set amount for anything. It was just as the developer took out building permits, a certain amount had to go to utility, a certain amount had to go to current fund, and a certain amount went to the record. And that was just at some point to be used for those.
Wasn't it so much a house, like 1,200?
I think it was 11,000 or 12,000 per house, yeah.
I was just wondering if we had any kind of revenue coming from that.
No, it was like
all-
that, yeah, back when that happened, it was like, so much had to go back to the utility, so much was to go to the current fund and offset that future debt service, and then so much was supposed to go to the recreation trust. So this is just money that came in that was supposed to be used to offset debt service. So basically now it's putting it in the budget to offset debt service that we're paying on the other side. Okay, so sheet 12. The appropriation. Just a little increase in clerk wages from last year. We had done that salary amendment. Anything else changed over the 5,000? Pretty much everything else was staying the same. Sheet 13. I bumped up again legal services, as you can see last year, and it doesn't seem like anything's slowing down with a lot of stuff that's going on, especially with the police contract being negotiated this year. So just wanted to make sure we have enough for that.
Legal services combination of foreign.
Yes, yeah, that's everything. Everything except for like a piece that gets allocated.
Just so everyone understands.
Yes, that is not just Angela. That is labor, that is city solicitor, that is foreclosure, that is redevelopment, that is not allocated to a specific project. So that is usually all legal. Engineering, I bumped up a little bit, and that's something we might wanna, I probably should talk to Ryan a little bit. It's not enough, but we got a couple of road grants, and now in the past, you could not charge design engineering to the grants. I believe the DOT has changed it, and now some of the design can go to the grant, but when you're only getting a grant for so much money, it barely covers what we need for the road construction, much less trying to fit design and construction inspection, so. Sorry, good question.
No, go ahead.
Okay.
When you're done.
So we might wanna like get an estimate on a couple of the DOT grants that we have that are coming up as like the next round, that we've already been notified of the amounts, because we kind of wind up doing an ordinance for it, and maybe we can kind of shift some of that off of, doing an ordinance and kind of fund some of it through the budget.
Did you speak with Ron about the award of the Chicago Avenue money?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, hopefully that won't be too badly affected by this.
Okay.
Yeah, because we had some other,
Keep going. I know it's a
okay. But also it just seems like there's more and more things that just involve the engineers. We just have, there's a lot of projects, a lot of things are technical, and, we're constantly asking Ryan for, advice or help or whatever, so, just bump that up so we would have money there, so we can, and especially when they do a lot of grants, applications, we wind up, getting for that. All right, buildings and grounds bumped up. We had the city hall water heater just went, and we had to replace that, so that was $4,000. Which, let me tell you, got a good deal, because our original quote was like 11. So we changed the size a little bit and got a couple quotes, and so we brought that down.
Yeah, $11,000. That was 80 gallon.
It was 80 gallon, and we kind of looked at everything, and we
Yeah.
brought it down.
Take
It's now 40 gallon.
Yeah.
So we can take a shower.
So,
No more shower.
so that was a little bit, and
Let me
then,
talk to her.
I'm not sure some of you might know, but we had the diesel tank was leaking over at the fire department, so that had to be, there was just kind of like, luckily it was not anything that required like any kind of environmental or insurance claim. We did notify them when we first found out, so we didn't know if it was something underground or what was going on, but it wasn't. But anyway, there was a repair that was needed, so, and then the pump itself had to be like replaced, so that was. Yeah, I think you're right, yeah. So that was like $8,000, so definitely needed to bump up buildings and grounds to cover those. We've already, it's only March, and we've already had those two big things, so. Hopefully, God forbid anything else happens, we could, you can always do an ordinance for something major if we have to, or, an emergency appropriation, but since we know about these, I just wanted to put them in. Contractual engineering, took that out, that was that 19,000 for the New Orleans subdivision that we had put in special last year. 15, I don't think anything changed. A, about 30,000 for police salaries. It just based on step guide and anticipated projected salary or contract that's changed, and other expenses. We have the new car, the lease payments for the new cars, and obviously we're going to have a lot of new officers, so we're going to need some new uniforms and training and things like that for new officers. If you had anything you wanted to add.
No, it's just we took
Is that
took
all?
out 5,000 from overtime for some of the purchases we have to make for body cameras. So it's kind of a wash for that one. And we're gonna have to promote sergeant, another sergeant, so we put some money in the budget for that. And, I think that was it, right, Jerry?
Did you say we had a purchase of police vehicle?
Last year, we remember we authorized the purchase of leasing three police vehicles. No,
Do we do that?
We still have
She
not
said
happened, yeah.
June. Yeah, it's a lot of
Yeah,
backlog
that's
stuff.
really bad, yeah. Trying to
There's some.
talk about it now, like if it makes sense to look for alternate vehicles or something, but
Do we consider using the ARPA funds for that? Purchase a vehicle?
I mean, it's always something that we haven't talked about it, but
Well, for leasing. That kind of save us a couple dollars and put it towards that. I don't know. How bad,
yeah.
how bad of an expense it is.
Right. Well, we did a 4-year cap, I think it was 4 years, right? No, we did 4 years. It's like 4 years, I think it's like about 30,000 a year that we get. Right? Isn't that about?
Yeah, 27.
Sorry. I'm not putting it up to 30.
I did.
I'm rounding.
I mean, it's been approved, it's been approved, but the vehicles themselves are having issues getting
Yeah.
manufactured, so.
Yeah, you know what, it's 37, not 20.
Okay. Okay, it's 30. So that's what we have in police. Nothing else really, anything significant on that page. 15D. Just bumped up the hauling fee a little bit. Our contractual amounts for trash collection have gone up a little bit. And this way, if we need it for solid waste, but a tipping fees or anything like that, we'll have that budgeted. Plus, we have an increase in the amount that, like a contractual increase for what we reimburse Philadelphia Village.
How many times do we pick up?
We don't, we reimburse them for their pickup.
How
They
many
pick
times
up,
do
they have
pick
3
up?
times a week they have pick up.
If we were doing it ourselves, would we pick up 3 times a week?
No.
Hmm.
That's what,
That's
the
why we
problem
have,
is
yeah,
with
that's why we
the
have, yeah, that's why we had like a lawsuit with them 2 years ago, and the settlement was that we would reimburse them, because we couldn't like work out like.
Well, they didn't
Right.
want to retrofit their
Right,
dumpsters
right.
to have
Right,
the
we
way
have-
do it, so.
We have rear loading or front load, whatever,
Yeah.
one has one and the other, ACUA has one and they have the other for,
ACUA has rear loop.
okay.
They're doing like extra pickups. We don't have to pay for that. We only have to pay for what we would have.
Right, that's what the law
Paid for.
states.
Yeah. So if we would only done it twice, we shouldn't pay for 3 pickups.
Trust
That
me,
makes
I
sense.
agree with you, and I'm not the attorney that
Um,
either is handle that, I push you to the settlement, fine. Unless we wanna go back to court, I don't know how we could.
That's fine with
Anyway.
No, they did try to honestly request more money than what we had
Right.
agreed with them to settle, because their costs are going up.
So we refused that, but who knows, maybe. we
Yeah,
can
so
add
it might wind up going back to court.
Might get added.
So,
How long is the contract for? Anyone? 2 more years?
I was gonna say, it's
2 more
definitely
years.
a few more.
2 more years.
Yeah.
After that, we can- Is it- Give 10 minutes.
But we got through the bulk of it, so we're good. 15C, nothing major to change. 15D, nothing to change. 15C, or I'm sorry, 15D, going backwards. So group insurance went down a little just based on employees that are here, and then as of right now, the Teamsters have already changed, so they're on the 2030 plan as part of their negotiated new contract. So right now, I still have police in at the current rate, so we'll see there's potential some changes there depending on what's negotiated. You could see liability insurance and workers' comp went down a good amount. That's obviously from the insurance that we quoted and wound up getting a decrease. As of right now, I had all of our, usually I kind of put a piece to the utility, but because once the water treatment plant closes, we're gonna have to absorb all those expenses anyway. Since we had a very large decrease, I just absorbed that utility amount into this right now, so potentially we could change that a little bit if we have to, but I think it's kind of smart to start shifting things over to the current fund that are eventually gonna have to come over anyway. So this was kind of a nice year to do that since we had a savings there. So that is the change. 16, nothing really changed. 17 are the utilities. I bumped up gasoline 20,000. I think that's pretty self-explanatory, as you can all see. I'm sure you're all feeling it at the pump. So unfortunately, gas is crazy right now. Hopefully that'll even be enough, but maybe by the time we get to closer to introduction, we'll have a better idea of kind of where we're at and if we need to make any changes to that. Bumped up electric just a little bit to get it. We had to transfer a little bit there last year, so just moved a little bit there. Everything else pretty close to the same. Nineteen is our next sheet. These are the statutory, basically means it's set by statute, so hers is set by the state, that actually went down a little bit, which is nice. And same with PRS went down, which is surprising, because I'm sure the employer percentage went up, but it's based on salary from a couple of years ago, so I guess having some of the newer employees has lowered that amount. So that's how those amounts are determined. The city doesn't really have any control on that. 20 recycling tax, just to bump that up a little bit as the tonnage increases, the amount that you have to pay. That's just, the state has like a set, I think it's like $3 for every 1,000 tons or every so many tons, or something like that. It's a set amount set by the state.
You're saying our tonnage increases every.
Something like this, you know, just based on the amount of question. Okay, sheet 24 is grants. The only difference between the revenue side on that is have the matching funds for grants, 25,000, that's for the NPK, that's our share of that grant. And there's a small share of the municipal alliance local share, about not quite 1,400. So that's the only difference on the appropriation side from the revenue side.
Okay, any other questions for you?
Sure.
I'm just following because I was looking through this. What's our taking the court revenue?
So we won't have, last year, it basically was just a wash. They didn't, the new contract, so we should probably get something in 23 from whatever's excess in 22. Well, once it's finalized, yeah, I did check that because I was like, in my head, I thought, then when I looked back, I realized, okay, 21, they just wiped out, they didn't make us pay the rest of our, we had been contracted like 40-some thousand, we only paid like 8. And then the actual revenue sharing starts in 2022.
Okay.
Yeah, so next year, that's a good point. So next year, we should hopefully have some court revenue budget. Or, yeah, anticipate. No, good point, that's a mention for next year. 26, capital improvement fund, just left that the same. That is the amount, when we do a bond ordinance, we have to put a down payment on it. So that amount just allows us to have something to make a down payment if we do a bond ordinance, which we've talked about doing one for Liverpool Avenue, so we'll need that towards that. 27, debt service. Our bond payment amount stayed the same this year. The only change is interest on notes. Our note rate was really favorable. We got like a little over 1% interest on our bond anticipation notes this year, so a little less. And also, we haven't really been doing tax anticipation notes. We've been doing estimated billing, so that way it keeps things more consistent for the taxpayers. And it's just, I think it's better to do it that way rather than leave people not getting a bill and then having to pay interest on the note. So reduce that interest on the appropriation a little bit for that. Okay, sheet 28. Deferred charges, special emergency. The 40, when you do a special emergency, there's certain things, revals, reassessments, master plans, certain things are considered special emergency. You're allowed to fund those over 5 years. Last year was the last year to fund the reassessment we had done, so that was 40,000 a year. We did the resolution for the master plan last year at 50,000, so that's only 10,000 a year over 5 years. So that is why there is a decrease there.
The resolution we did.
I think it's really. And then sheet 29, the reserve, the only other thing is the reserve for uncollected taxes. The state basically requires you to do an appropriation offsetting what basically there's a calculation of what you're not going to collect in taxes based on things that go to lien or that are canceled or for one reason or the other. So our tax collection percentage went up last year. So you can basically, the max you can use for that calculation is the prior year's calculation. Usually what we've been doing is a 3-year average because that actually was higher than our prior year. To keep it consistent and for, I think, what's more accurate, I kept it at the 3-year average. So technically that could get lowered a little bit, but I think to be conservative this way, we know we collect what we're really anticipating in taxes. But I used the 3-year average for that calculation. Our last year's collection rate was 98.73. The average was 97.71. So that's what I based this calculation on right now. And 30 is just a summary of all that stuff. So.
Jody?
Yes.
One question, so
Sure.
just to go back, our total municipal debt is 283.
That's just what's budgeted this current year. That's not the actual outstanding debt. That's just the amount budgeted this year.
How much, what's our outstanding?
Our actual balance, we have like a little over 700,000 in bond anticipation notes, and our actual bond itself is 950,000, so about $1 million, which honestly I think is amazing. I think that's really, really well. Yeah, so a little, not less than 2 million is our overall, I would say, debt on the current fund side, not on the utility side. I know you want to take the last 5 minutes real quick if you want, if you want to. Yeah, I did attach the utility budget. That starts on page sheet 31. So sheet 31, I bumped up the surplus a little bit to offset. I put in some extra when we get to the appropriation side. I put in some extra money in for legal and engineering because all the stuff going on with the water plant sale is obviously going on longer and is more expensive than anticipated. So maybe we potentially will get, I believe, some of it back from New Jersey American Water, but just to make sure we have enough budgeted to continue to pay the professionals to continue this, just wanted to make sure we had it in the budget. So bump that up. Rents, as you can see, went up a little bit last year. They were really low in 2021. I think that's, or I'm sorry, in 2020. So it went up a good amount in 2021. I think that was when COVID first started. First of all, we weren't allowed to collect any interest or things like that on so luckily the revenues came back up a little bit last year on that.
And Jody, the rents
Yes.
are on what? On the,
That's what's utility, water and sewer.
and that's
That's what they
rents-
call it. They call
Okay.
it rents, yeah. I know, you're not really renting. I don't know why. It's, for some reason, that's just what it's called. That's just, yeah, the charges for water and sewer and fees. Yeah, sorry, it's a little confusing. Just love the reserve to pay debt. That's just, again, money that was taken in years ago. That's sitting there. That's just, I believe, the amount that's left. So just kind of closing that out. And then utility capital fund balance. When we issue notes, sometimes we get a premium from the purchaser of the notes, and so like that just has to go to fund balance, so just kind of keeping that when we get it once in a while. So that's all that changed on the revenue side. On the appropriations, just go to sheet 32. Just a little bit of an increase in salaries. They kind of hadn't really been changing, because we kind of haven't had anybody for a while, but there's been quite a bit of overtime. We've had 1 million breaks, and 30 was last year, so just a lot of stuff that's been happening. Kept other expenses about the same. Again, bumped up those engineering and legal fees. The ACUA is just a contractual amount. That is for treating the sewer flows, and for the pump station maintenance is what is included in that number. And 32B, I don't think anything changed drastically. A little bit more in principal, a little less in interest, because as each year you're paying more in principal and less in interest. It's basically a wash. The interest on notes went down again for that same reason. Our note rate was really great, really good this year, so less in interest. Same on 33, and that's it.
Jody, can I ask something about the notes? And
Sure.
you said it changed, the interest on it changed. Are they variable?
The notes you issue every year, you're only allowed to issue them for a maximum term of a year. So those are temporary financing until you're ready to go to permanent financing. So yeah, you issue those every year and basically you do what's called like a note sale and you would notify all of your banks and there's different like funds that bid on it. Other towns have actually, people that have a lot of cash because the interest rates are so low that they're not getting any money on their bank money sitting in the bank. Other towns that have a lot of cash will actually bid on notes because it's considered an allowable investment. So they'll bid on what they're gonna like give you for that note or whatever, you know, for your note. So the rate will change every year based on that. And the rates had gone up in like 2020 with COVID, like no one knew what was going on. So they weren't that bad, but they had definitely gone up, but now they've kind of come back down. So we got a really good rate on the note.
Is this increase, you said 1 cent?
This is 1 cent as of right now on the local taxes.
Okay.
Yeah, if you look at that tax summary sheet, I don't have final numbers from everyone. The local school, I have like an estimate from their VA, and that's like they're looking at like an 11 cent increase for debt service. So hopefully they work on a fiscal year, so they didn't realize, I don't think, how much on a calendar year that would affect everyone, but I think next year will be a lot better for the local school. But unfortunately for this year, the local school will have a big increase. I don't think anything else. I haven't gotten anything from Greater Ed yet, so I really just kind of need an estimate on them.
And the 1 cent, what does that equal to dollar-wise?
So if you look over a little farther over on that chart, I can't remember if the average home in the city is 100 or 125, but if you look, so the local tax, if their house is assessed at 100,000, it would be $10. If it was 125,000, it would be $12 more in local tax.
Okay, but my question actually was, how much do we have to come up with to sharpen that pencil?
Oh, 1 cent is
Zero.
19,000.
19,000, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
A little over 19,000, almost 20,000.
All right, before I ask for a motion, anybody else have any questions for Jody regarding the budget? If not, I ask everyone just take the time over the next couple of weeks to read over it again, digest it. As Steve just said, see if there's some areas we can sharpen the pencil in. 19,000, it's a small number, honestly. I mean, great job, everyone out there with it. And then we'll schedule the next budget meeting for the next council meeting. Is that good?
It's already been scheduled. Is it next or the next?
I think the next.
It's actually the 17th. I realize I won't be at that meeting. I'll be away.
I'll check.
All right, well, yeah, so whatever the case is, it'll be made public, as far as the next budget meeting, same time, 1,800 hours, and then 18:45. So if nobody has any more questions or comments, if we can have a motion to adjourn until 7 p.m.
Big motion.
Second.
All in favor? All right, thank you. All right, I'd like to call to order the regular council meeting scheduled for March 24th, 2022. We just adjourned from our budget meeting. I'd like to thank everyone on behalf of everyone sitting up here, Mayor and Council, for attending our meeting tonight. With that being said, may I move to have a motion to approve the minutes from March 10th, 2022?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we're going to jump on the agenda. I'm going to turn it over to the mayor for her presentation for oath of office.
So it's an exciting evening we have tonight. I know many of you were here the last time when we swore in Officer Aylwin as a provisional chief. And since then, she has successfully and brilliantly passed the police chief's test. So tonight she will be sworn in as the chief of police permanently. I don't know what you call it, but it's not provisionally. So with that, I would just like to say we have a great person here. She's been with the department since 2008, and she's been a very valuable asset, and she well deserves this position. So I'm going to ask Chief to come up, and you have two people.
Yes, I'm gonna have Lieutenant Perna, who has been working here since the beginning with me, and Dylan Hutton, who is now a detective at the prosecutor's office, who previously worked here in Egg Harbor City. All right.
Did you want to read?
No. I'm Marcella Owen.
Okay, are we ready?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. I state your name.
I, Marcella Aylwin,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same
and the governments established
and the governments established
in the United States
in the United States
and in this state
and in this state
under the authority of the people,
under the authority of the people,
and that I will faithfully,
and that I will faithfully,
impartially,
impartially,
and justly perform
all the duties
of the office
of the office of
Egg Harbor City Police Department Chief of Police,
Egg Harbor City Police Department Chief of Police.
according
So,
to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
I went, Chief Allen and I went to the police academy together. So I've known her this whole time. She does an incredible job. Nobody even knows how much time she puts in. Even when she's not working, she truly cares for everybody that she works with, all the residents in town. She does so much and she just wants the best for everybody and the best for the residents in town.
Chief. So, thank you guys, everybody in the department's here, which means a whole lot. I thought it was important for the provisional promotion. I did have my family up here with me, which meant the world to me because they have been super supportive. But law enforcement is not something that you can do by yourself. And I think it's really important to have predecessors and people who you do work with and who truly do make the team work here. So I appreciate all of you guys being here. I'd like to say thank you to former Director of Public Safety, Mark Emmert, who was just telling the story of how when I first applied to be a police officer, I had passed the civil service exam, but I was very pregnant with my second child. But I came, I said that I wanted to put it off, and 9 months later, I did go to the police academy. So he took a chance, and here I am. There are other law enforcement officers. Chief Friel from Hamilton is here, who's also been a very big support, and then just everybody in the community. Mayor, Council, I appreciate this opportunity, and I am going to do the best that I can for this city. That's all. Thank you very much, everyone. Council President, with your permission, I'd like to do my report.
Anything for the rest of your night.
Thank you. It's been a short few weeks since our last meeting. The good thing is many of you may already notice that we do have our speed trailers out. One of them is in the area that did receive complaints. I believe it's on Beethoven right by San Francisco or New Orleans. And the other one is on Philadelphia Avenue. If you go over 30 hours, you'll get nice flashing red and blue lights telling you to slow down. I recognize there are lots of places in town that we've gotten complaints where people are speeding. So we are assessing what we've got going on there, and we will be putting them in different areas throughout town to help address the needs that people have already approached us with and any future concerns. This pay period, we've had one officer go to ICAT Able. We had a bunch of us go to the range. I attended a chief's meeting. There's coalition stuff. Candace Negron, who is here, has done amazing stuff. March Dadness, there was community cleanup. So the coalition has been very, very busy. I would like to say a very, very big congratulations to Cedar Creek High School. Their Beauty and the Beast performance was amazing. I'm also oftentimes a little bit disappointed that we can't do more for the theater and the arts, like we do for our sports teams, because we can't go around and do a big parade. But I strongly urge anybody who has not seen a Cedar Creek production to go watch them. Beauty and the Beast was amazing. In terms of our stats, this last few weeks, we had 3 burglaries, 5 thefts, 8 motor vehicle accidents, 1 pedestrian stop, 43 traffic stops, 10 of which led to summonses, 1 DUI arrest. There was a fairly significant accident on Philadelphia Avenue early morning, where someone did run a red light and then struck a few vehicles on the 100 block of Philadelphia Avenue. Fortunately, nobody was injured. Other incidences, we did have 8 business alarms, 4 residential alarms, 113 crime prevention activities, 1 criminal mischief call, 4 domestics, 20 EMS incidents, 2 firearms applications, 10 follow-ups, 362 property checks, and 9 public service calls. That's about it that I have for you right now. Any questions, concerns?
Enjoy your night.
I will, thank you very much.
Congratulations. All right, moving on. Is there anybody from the public that has any comments on any items on the agenda?
Yes, I do. I have questions.
One moment, please, Ms. Galloway, we have a person in attendance.
Okay, thanks.
William, state your name and your residence.
Ryan Blankenship, 1508 Hamburg. So I had a question. It's going to be about resolution 26 through 30. My first question, is there a limit to the number of cannabis business in person?
Yes, there are. Angela, finish this up for you.
There's a limit on the retail. There's 2 permitted, on Philadelphia and the Western Park.
2
Otherwise,
each or 2 total?
2 total.
2 total.
Otherwise, there is no limit on the other, other than what's in the ordinance.
So what, of these, so we have 1 retail from 2 weeks ago, I believe, Medby, right? And then of these, which are there more retail here? Of these 5?
These aren't resolutions approving any license. These are
No,
just
yeah,
resolutions.
it's the same as what we did 2 weeks ago, right?
Right.
Okay. Are there dispensaries in this list? More than 1?
Yes.
Okay, so I guess from my understanding, if the city has a limit of 2, I don't think that you should, how can you give a letter of support to a business that can't then open their business?
Because in the resolution, we say that if this entity would actually receive a license from the state, it wouldn't surpass the number of,
Right,
but it's a big if. Each one of these companies must get their state license. This is not a resolution approving it. This is simply a resolution allowing the company to proceed with their permitting process.
I understood. I realize that none of them have been, have a license from the state yet. They're all working to put their application. I have no problem with however many you want to open. If it's more than 2, less than 2, I don't, that's not my issue. The thing that I am worried about, so I don't know which of these are retail establishments or the total number that are asking for it, but let's say it's 3, and 3 of them got their license from the state, because you have no control over the number that the state approves in Egg Harbor City, besides who you've approved already. So if you approve 3 with these resolutions, and 3 of them get a license, you're gonna have to go back and tell one of them that they can't open.
What
because you
happens
have a
is,
resolution for 2.
that's not really true. So what happens is, my understanding is, once the state approves any one of these licenses, the municipality is notified as to the approval process. Then, if that entity meets all the requirements of the state license, they come to the municipality, which would be Egg Harbor City, and they follow our process through our ordinance applied to the city. All these are conditional uses. They have to go to the conditions of the use to the land use board. And basically, whichever 2 get their licensing intact in place through the city are the 2 that will come to Egg Harbor. So if none of them get it, then none of them come. If there are 2 in the process and 2 come in, and the 3rd one comes in, the 3rd one does not receive a license.
So
It's
it
the
should be first come, first
first
served later
served.
though.
That's
That's
it.
not this.
First come, first served later. That's not, this is right. This is simply allowing the process to move forward with the state.
I guess I was confused about the language in the last resolution from last week with MedLife, because in that resolution, it says that, I have it.
It's the same one. It's the
Yeah,
same
no,
resolution.
I understand, that's
I
the
can
issue.
change it.
I know,
Right.
so it says, and that to the extent that the city of Egg Harbor has imposed a limit to the number of cannabis businesses, the application of MedLeaf LLC, or in this case, any of these, does not exceed that limit.
And
But-
won't, if it's approved by the state. I think what you're confusing is the fact that the municipality is actually giving them the right to apply for a state permit as opposed to actually receiving a permit. We are simply
No, yeah.
approving the process, not the permit.
I guess my understanding was that by approving them here, you're telling the state that if they get a license, they're approved to open their business here.
It's absolutely not true.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
Right?
Because they don't, some of them haven't secured.
Yeah.
This is simply, I guess, what I would call a zoning letter. They're zoned for whatever business whatever cannabis business.
So they're gonna have to, these companies will have to do this all over again to get final approval.
Yes,
Yep.
correct.
Okay, that's fine. I just wanted to clear that up. Not-
Does that answer your questions?
Yeah, no, that's fine. I just wanted to make sure that we weren't saying yes to a bunch of business that we couldn't later approve. That's all.
If I could say something real
Yeah.
quick, there are some people here that are on our resolution list here, and I would recommend that, so you don't have to stay here all evening, could they possibly comment on those items, or at this point in time, or you want to wait until we make time to sit until the end and comment, since they are on the agenda.
If they have
an agenda item.
I mean, if they have a comment now that they want to
I know
state,
some of them might want to say something, I'm not quite sure, but I'm just guessing.
any
I'm just-
representatives from any of the entities here that would like to make a statement? Sure, come on up. You can state your name and.
How are we doing tonight? My name is Xavier Barker. I am the CEO and owner of Brother X LLC. This is my partner Benjamin Rudolph. First, we'd like to thank all of you guys for this opportunity to speak before you today. Is my understanding, is this our turn to go, or are we just making a
I mean, if you wanted to comment on who you are, what you're doing, because I was under the impression that some people were gonna come and talk about.
It is on our agenda tonight to move forward with your resolution of
Yes.
support. I guess they just,
I mean, we're not doing what you're doing now, but
Yes.
we want
We
to
can
get
get
to
that.
know us
We can
and
talk.
all that.
So, yes, we are currently a startup that is going for a class 1 micro cultivation license over off of Bremen Avenue Industrial Business Park. Obviously, this is new to all of us. We don't really, it's a learning curve and a learning experience for all of us moving forward. And I think it's a great opportunity for us to all come together and really understand what we want in the future of Egg Harbor City. We have to understand together that without, full transparency, that we won't reach that success that we want overall. I know that I lived in Egg Harbor City for the past 4 years, and I would love to see, some improvements being made throughout the city. And I think that it's great that Egg Harbor City is very open to allowing cultivation and retail and manufacturing and processing and all of the above, because that is huge in terms of putting Egg Harbor City on the map. So we have a couple of different things that, we would want to discuss regarding who we are and what we want to do with the city and, with the community that we're in. Obviously, we're a micro business, we're going to be a smaller scale. And obviously there's competition, bigger facilities, people who've been around a little bit longer in the medical industry. So our goal is to, focus on craft cannabis. We don't have that size. We do have a size restriction. We're limited to about 800 square feet canopy space. 2,500 square foot building. So with that canopy space, I believe that we, really focus on quality over quantity, because we're obviously not able to compete with the bigger vendors in terms of quantity, but we can compete with quality. So
yeah,
And,
so a big aspect of what we're wanting to achieve with this craft cannabis is one, sustainability. That is extraordinarily important to us as, sure, that is extraordinarily important to, okay, that's extraordinarily important to us as a company, that we are wanting to create the highest quality product that we can for the city in the most sustainable way possible. We are going to be implementing state-of-the-art techniques that are being seen in California and the top contenders. We'll be using the most energy efficient equipment, the most water efficient equipment. We are committed to, upon land clearing space on Bremer Avenue for property that we have secured permissions to close on a future date, to replant every single tree 2-to-1 for any that we bring down. And this is something that we really want to bring back into the community. You're not only looking for, financials to bring into the community and extra taxes. We're also really wanting to help support the local members of it. We want to keep hiring locally, preferably people with nonviolent cannabis convictions to get them into the workforce. My father over there, JR, is providing some legal counsel and will be attempting to best his ability to be offering pro bono expungement processes for individuals that may still be in the process or slowing down and don't have the means or resources or knowledge to really progress the way they need to. I know from my experience, a prior cannabis conviction, to get it expunged, the town clerk had lost it for 3 years and never told anybody. We were waiting in this limbo. So we really want to give that opportunity to people so they're not just kind of stuck in this way.
And a little bit of what Ben just said, obviously it's not news to us that there's a lot of people who've had their lives destroyed from cannabis. And I think it's more or less us, trying to educate and inform people instead of, just coming and trying to have quality cannabis. I think we need to be a staple of what it should be, what the community should be. It shouldn't be something that puts you in jail. You shouldn't have to take a ride in the cop car because you decided to smoke a joint with your friends. That's besides. I think we need to, as a company, work with local law enforcement and being full transparent with you guys in order to have events to inform people and educate them on what cannabis actually is and what the benefits are medically, recreationally, whatever you plan on using it for. It's definitely something that it's our responsibility to teach everybody. And
on that note, we're planning on becoming intimately familiar with the Egg Harbor City Police Department and the new illustrious chief of police that is there to make any transport or requirements that the city may need of us that we operate with the police department go as smoothly as possible. We will be contacting the Egg Harbor City Fire Department to make sure that they're fully aware of our location, our facility, everything about it. So in case any instances occur, all emergency services that Egg Harbor City can provide can operate with us with the most fluidity possible, and just have, again, full transparency with the town mayor and council.
on another note, I know that right around the corner, Stockton University offers cannabis minor. We both were a part of it, and part of that minor needed an internship. And the issue with that was there was no actual plant touching internships that you could be a part of and or join to get to the next step in your career. So we could hopefully work out some sort of arrangement to offer those types of internships for students who want to be in the field, want to take the next step moving forward, and really understand what it means to be a part of this industry. Because by no means is this an easy industry to enter. I think we are grateful that we can learn off of everybody else who's done it before us. We're not the first, but on the East Coast, we do have the opportunity to be the pioneers in this journey. And I think that it's a great opportunity, like I said before, to really educate, inform, and really bring the community together, because there's years of propaganda really set us back, and we're digging ourselves out of the hole now to try to really make an impact and create some positivity throughout the community. On that note, do you guys have any questions, anything you want to know regarding our plans?
I just wanted to know, did you In the class that you had taken, you
Yes.
said there was no hands-on anywhere,
That is
not
correct.
even in Egg Harbor Township in there, oh, really?
No, so,
Non-cannabis?
Due to my understanding on certain things, they've been very limited in partnership because up until this point, the legalization aspect in New Jersey has still been in a really big gray area, especially regarding cultivation. So while it has been legalized, we're now just seeing people legally able to touch and grow plants on a commercial scale, let alone at a scale of a federally funded university. So Stockton is one of, I think, only a handful of colleges in the entire country that offers a cannabis minor, and of those, it is one of the top. So we are also trying to work with the university to really make it that #1 destination, bring more people into the generalized area, in turn, bring more traffic to the neighboring townships, bring a little bit more spotlight of, hey, local university might be doing this, get a little just bit more light in this total area and cannabis and the different local municipalities around the area.
Is this that much different from the medicinal cannabis that they grow in EHT, I believe?
if we're being honest with each other, no. It's really just the way that you look at it. So, I mean, the cannabis plant is a cannabis plant, you'll cultivate it and anyone can package it and say, okay, this is fine. There's no recreational, I mean, leading up to this point, recreational was what you would get off in the street.
Black market.
Black market,
Not
yes.
the market.
So, that being said, really, no. It's really just a matter of,
All testing, it all has to go to the same lab, same rigorous thing. This is this percentage, this percent. So it must all be more.
So they have come before you, so you could kind of learn from them as well in EHT?
As, yes, very good.
One other question, then, where are you from?
I'm from North Jersey, by the Morristown area. I live in Parsippany, like Hiawatha. So I've resided there for the past 23 years of my life. And I moved down to Stockton specifically for the campus minor. I was directly to the college in the area. My hope is that a lot of other students that have come down from that, by expanding that aspect of this town, that we can draw even more people through even across all the way north of the state and bring them down and bring more of their income spending to these areas.
After sitting through the budget meeting, I know that you guys like numbers. With projected revenue, we're looking at roughly 1.2 million. So it's my understanding the excise tax 2%, that would roughly generate $24,000 a year in taxes. So that definitely is something that we obviously don't want to pay taxes, but pay taxes. And
So to clarify, this is for the first 2 years. At the end of a 24-month period, the Cannabis Regulatory Commission in New Jersey has stated that you will no longer be bound by the 2,500 square foot facility space rule. So post 24 months, we are planning a rapid expansion and increase in production as well as revenue that would then translate directly into Egg Harbor City after a period of 24 months. And again, we do also have a property secured, so we would just be in the final application process with the state with no other obstacles or things.
So will you then change from a micro?
Yes, after a 24-month period, we will be able to apply for a new license. To my understanding, there's different tiers of canopy space that we can apply for. And then at that point, at a 24-month period, where the XLC will make a decision as to what size canopy space is most beneficial to them, but it will be an increase of the current size that we are restricted by the CRC.
And what about the facility? The building initially
So,
for the
sorry.
later size for the future?
So initially, we're gonna start off with 2,500 square feet. The way our renderings were designed were so that we can just add additional rooms off of our initial 2,500 square foot property. So
like boxes?
It's almost like a box. Well, it's not really a box, but the way the facility is designed is, we would just be adding rooms.
We would be able to knock a particular wall of the facility and expand the facility to accompany a larger area. And if it pleases the council mayor, we would also be able to send a floor plan and things of the facility to you, all the documents that you may wish to see. We have full business plan, environmental impact plan, community workforce engagement plan. We have business experience, write-ups and things like that. So if there's any relevant documentation, any council member or mayor would like, we would be more than happy to send that their way.
Thank you.
Anybody have any other questions or comments?
I can tell you this, with your asking questions, myself and, President Ritchie, the state is very, very stringent on these things. As, you know, when we have to go into these facilities in our job, we have to be escorted. Okay, there is no very stringent, and they don't, then we have to log in, log out, a lot of stringent, you know, once you look at.
Are they still able to grow outside as well as inside? No.
Not in this township, no. It is prohibited to do outdoor cultivation, which is what drew us in more environmentally controlled indoor, because we'll be able to control the exact humidity, temperature, energy output, light, to get literally like dialed down to, dot every I, cross every T, to get exactly the type of product we're looking for.
And with all this being said, the market's only as good as the product. So obviously you have New York, you have Philadelphia. Sooner than later, they're gonna catch on New Jersey, right? But like I said, we're focusing on, large scale, just pumping it out. So no supply and demand is a huge issue that we're dealing with as a state, because eventually, the possibility of running out of more people want their products and but if it's quality product and people want to come here to obtain that product, like I said, it will put us on the map as the type of city really gets and attracting.
As evidence in Colorado and California, there is always money for good cannabis. If people are buying cannabis, that means they have, generally speaking, money for better cannabis. If they're going into a store and they can say, I'll spend $10 more for a significantly better experience, it is my understanding that they will generally tend to do so. So the idea of a more craft cannabis is still extraordinarily accessible to individuals because, if you're going to the supermarket or something and you get food that's, a little bit higher markup when you're eating, you're like, wow, this is so much better, it's healthier for me. I like exactly where it's coming from. It might be ethically sourced or where they're making it from. You would like this. Generally, as a consumer, you're willing to pay that extra fee. And it's going to be the same thing for our cannabis and what we are wanting to the township on all of this.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. As you guys know, it's a long process. Of course, stay steadfast and best of luck to you.
Thank you so much very much. Much appreciated. Thanks for your time.
Anybody else from the public have any comment?
Yes.
Yeah, lots of you.
Good afternoon, council. My name is Louis Allen. All right, so I actually am applying for a class 5 retail with the location, the old Cedar Market. I think we all know where the Cedar Market is.
You're number 20, Soul, right? Soul.
Solit, yeah, Solit. I'm the CEO and owner of Solit, which is a clothing brand, which is a cannabis clothing brand that I want to get rid of the stigma of cannabis. I currently work at one of the medical facilities, so I understand it. I understand how people are coming in, how to make sure that underage is not being able to get in or purchase, can't be seen from the street. So where I come from is I have a full medical background. I used to be a surgical technician in Atlanta Care, hips and knees, and cannabis. While I was working there, I was working on cannabis, educating myself, taking trips to other states. So when it did finally hit, I applied for one of the dispensaries, and it took me 3 years. So long story real short, they were like, it's time for us to hire you. We have 9 copies of your resume, so you're the first one that's in. So I'm dedicated my life to that. I've been there. I've moved my way up from the bottom all the way to the assistant manager at the moment, working on management. I opened 2 of the facilities, one in Atlantic City, one in Williamstown. So I am exactly what I've been working for is what I'm going for. So class 5 exactly, micro, which means same as my brother X. It's 2,500 square feet, 10 employees, which half of them will be from Egg Harbor City. Other than that, if you guys have any questions for me, feel free to ask me anything about my whole process, medicinal, anything you feel to ask.
Appreciate it. Ms. Galloway, you had a comment on an item on?
Had questions on the same topic. You have one fellow wants to do cultivation, and that's in the industrial park? That fellow, those two fellows that just spoke?
Yes.
And they're gonna build new?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, and then all of the others that want, the 4 others are all retail?
Yes. Yes.
They're site specific?
Yes.
So,
Yes.
okay, so you have 2 for one facility, you have 2 for 204 Philadelphia Avenue, right? Is that,
Yes.
am I reading this right? Okay, so, okay, playing devil's advocate, the state comes out with a list and publishes it on X date. And all 4 of these people and the other one that applied last, that you passed a resolution at the last meeting, are all on that list. How do you pick and choose which one's going to get to open in Egg Harbor City? What's the process?
I'm turning that question over to Angela. Ms.
Okay,
Galloway.
let me finish my question. Is
Sure.
there a license that the city would issue and a license fee that goes along with it? Or is it something that could be done through like a silent auction, a bidding auction or something like that?
I did it. So once the state grants its approval of a license, we should be notified of what the license is for and when the state granted it and any restrictions on the license. At that point, the applicant has to come to the municipality and first go to the land use board, because each one of these uses is a conditional use. It's permitted, but a conditional use. So there are conditions to each one of these licenses. So they have to present to the land use board with all the fees for that. If they're successful at the land use board, then our ordinance provides for an application process to the city with an application fee with additional requirements. So basically, this is a first come, first serve process. Whoever gets here first with all of the requirements of the state and the local will obtain the license from the city.
Are other municipalities doing first come, first serve?
To my knowledge,
This guy might be at the end of the list, is my point. It's like, how do you know which one is going to be the best operator?
we don't know. We won't know. We won't know until the state grants the license and notifies the municipality. At this point, I agree with you. Each municipality is kind of operating as best as it can because we're not involved in the state process and we really can't be other than these resolutions. So I'm sure the state will give us some more guidance, perhaps some more guidelines as the process goes through. But right now, that's what we have and that's what we're working with.
So there's no opportunity for these people to bid. Like, you know, whoever the highest bidder is, who has the most money to invest or is the most qualified, like the one fellow said he's been in the business for a couple of years. I mean, how do you choose out of 4 or 5 people that are going to get approved?
Well,
They're all on the same list the same day.
I don't think it's up to the municipality to pick and choose among many qualified vendors and many qualified entities. You heard a few today, and it's not up to the municipality to pick and choose. It's up to the state to grant a license or not grant. And the state vetting process, I understand, is very stiff. So I would hope the state, through its vetting process, would choose qualified and well-heeled applicants who would adhere to all the state guidelines.
Well, I think there's more to it than just, you know, letting the first 2 get in, because personally, as a resident here, I would want to see a property rehabilitated. I'd want to see their plan for the building, things like that, that I think are important for Egg Harbor City to get a good business in, either on Philadelphia Avenue or on the Pike. And I don't know, it doesn't seem like it's going to work out right. Something bad could happen, I think, you know, that somebody gets slighted and feels like, well, you didn't give me a fair shot at being first. I think there should be some kind of process to avoid that.
Well, Nanette, I agree with you, and that's called the land use board.
So all 5 of these people have to go before the land use board?
Absolutely.
All right.
Thank you, Nanette. Those were good questions.
Anybody else from the public? All right, moving on, Mayor, the floor is yours for your report.
Okay. First of all, we did talk about the community champions being reinstated or the vacant property, that we used to have, that is being reinstated. We'll have a meeting on the 30th. I think the code enforcement will be there. I know Jody and I will be there. So we'll have more information on that at the next meeting. And the, everybody.
What meeting was that?
For the 30th, that was the, is it ACIA, right? It was for the, purchasing. It's called, it used to be called.
No, it's the 30th.
I did I just say the 30th?
Yeah, but
I mean, yeah, it's community champions.
Okay, so anyway, Angela, I sent you that email too, so.
Yeah, I have it. I'm going to attend there.
So that's good news, because that gives us some teeth as a municipality to keep up on abandoned properties and things like that. Also, many of you know there was a fire, it was a dryer fire on Chicago Avenue just days ago, and the fire department, as usual, did a wonderful job, and we're so blessed to have them as a volunteer organization in the city. I also, today I received a phone call from Dave Resch, some of you may know him. He is acting on behalf of the Red Men, who was a group in Egg Harbor City, if you don't know that. The DEP would like to have a fishing challenge at the lake on June the 5th. And they would like to request to use Dylan's dock. So I would need for about 35 to 50 people from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. And they would like to put a refreshment stand where the parking is across from Dylan's dock. So that could include, you know, soda, chips, food, possibly hot dogs, hamburgers, things like that. So I'm asking that council approve that on June 5th.
Any objections?
I have a question and concern. Have we checked with the game warden? Because tournament or something like that.
Yeah, that's the DEP, right?
No.
Would they have advice on that?
No, that would be.
catching the leash
on it, they're not
Yeah, no, they're not.
Yeah,
We could
catching
do
the
it-
leash
I
and
know,
show
but,
your phone.
We could do a motion to approve with the
Yeah.
condition that I'll check on that.
Because I know with.
As long as they're doing catching, please show your phone.
Meg, do you want his number?
Yeah, I never heard, yeah.
All right.
Just-
So are we,
Same date, you know, date?
yeah,
I could go out there and do a pressure ball with that duck with them.
Yeah.
All right, any objections?
Okay, make a motion.
Second?
Okay.
I didn't hear that.
Second?
All right.
Yeah,
And
that's
then,
second.
I'll check on that.
I think you have to have a license. You do have to have a fishing license.
I know, but if it's a like
What's the ages?
fundraiser or like kind of thing,
Yeah, it's
Then
not,
maybe-
I think they wanna make their money on, they're gonna probably sell the food.
How about if I get more
Yeah,
information
get more
and
Yeah,
I'll
I think
report
it's more
back?
of a fundraiser.
Yeah.
Competition.
We have some time. Just gather the
Mayor,
facts.
what's the ages to be on there?
He didn't say.
I'll get
I'm
information.
15 and
gonna guess
older, I
they're
believe, they need a
adults,
license.
yeah.
Don't think anybody's ready.
And then, Cedar Creek reached out to me, and the last time I reported that they were gonna have their annual Cedar Creek Senior Picnic. They had to move that up a day because of the snow days. So they just wanted to, we already have the 15th reserved for a rain date. They want to move their rain date to the 16th. So council approves that. We don't have a problem with
What is
that.
the actual date?
The actual date is the 15th, with the
15th,
rain
okay.
date 16th.
Okay.
So before that, it was the 14th with the rain date 15th. So
Gotcha.
15th is good, we just need the 16th.
Any objections? So motion to amend it.
second.
So
make the motion.
Thank you.
I have a couple people that I'd like to call up. One is Riley Blankenship. He has offered to, I spoke about the Boy Scout the last meeting, I think. And Riley has devised a project to actually go from Indian Cabin to Clark's Landing Road to make the creek passable. So you can theoretically go from Moss Mill to Clark's Landing. So I'm gonna give you all one of these, and I'm gonna ask Riley to come up and talk a little bit about his.
Yeah, so I had actually had a similar idea to the Eagle Scout project that was proposed. I didn't know about the Eagle Scout project, but when I learned about it, I thought that was great. Because we had the same idea without talking to each other. So he proposed to do from Moss Mill Road to Indian Cabin behind the lake. It's not the creek that comes directly out of the lake where the dam is. It's further back, the further bridge, behind the lake. So he, from my understanding, is clearing Moss Mill to there. I figured, why stop there? Might as well continue it for the rest of the creek. So my idea basically is to build off of what he's planning to do and take it from Indian Cabin Road behind the lake to Clark's Landing. Why stop at Clark's Landing is because that's the land that Egg Harbor City is. Across the street is the state-owned land, so I need different approval to do that. But basically the idea is just to make it so you can fit a kayak or a canoe down that creek. Which all it would require is, clearing some trees that are in the way, some brush, things like that. My goal isn't to take every single stick out of the creek and things like that, just enough to get kayaks through and things like that, or a canoe. It's not deep enough or big enough to put a power boat in or anything like that. So it's not going to cause issues like that in the future. I feel that it would offer something for local residents, give them something to do. We have plenty of people that go kayaking at Basto, Wading River, Great Egg Harbor River. This is just another spot people could go. It's something that people that stay at the campground could do, something you could offer there to draw people in. In the future, if people really like it, maybe the city can rent kayaks or whatever, things like that down the road, just as, as future ideas. But really all I'm asking is for permission to volunteer my time and probably 2 other people's time for a weekend or 2, and just get permission to go out there and remove some of the brush so that you can actually get down that creek. Same as what's already happening on a different section. It's really all I'm asking for.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, of course.
If you're on Route 50, and you're looking at the lake, are you talking left or right?
If you're headed this way,
yeah.
it's behind the lake. Egg Harbor City, behind the campground.
Okay.
Not on the left, on the right.
Okay.
The creek basically follows San Francisco Avenue.
Okay.
Avenue, that, where it all is, it follows that road basically, but in the woods.
Okay.
Yeah, no, not on the left. No.
Okay.
It goes through like the back of the campground's own property and then through some of the preserve that the city owns there.
Okay.
It's basically parallel to San Francisco Avenue on this side of Clark's Landing to Indian Cabin.
Okay.
I have a question. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Ryan's looking up some guidance on stream.
Yeah,
That's what I was gonna ask about.
There's a list of, there's a guidance document that lists activities that are permitted and those which require a permit. So we'll provide you the guidance documents. So exactly.
That's fine. I have no plans of cutting any brush that is living, any brush that is on the bank of the creeks, and anything like that. It would only be fallen trees in the creek that are directly blocking a kayak. And I don't want to remove more because I understand those guidelines. That's what I went to school for. Like, I get that woody debris in a creek is good for a creek. I don't want to remove that. It helps hold sediment in place. It helps reduce flooding. It helps create habitat for things in that creek. I totally get that, and I would love to see those guidelines, and I'll follow them to the T. So yeah, I don't want to do anything like that. I'm just literally trying to cut a 4-foot path so you can fit a boat down the creek. I don't know if anyone's kayaked the very beginning of the Great Egg Harbor River. So that's a relatively tight creek or tight river, and it would be something similar to that, where it's a more technical kayak than like just going down the Wading River, in the morning, whereas really wide, you don't have to paddle, you can just kind of float along if that's what you want. This would be a little bit more technical. It's a narrower creek, it's not as deep. There's going to be still brush on the edges and things like that. You're not going to be able to just pull out anywhere you want and hang out for the days. That's not what I'm trying to do. Literally make it so boat fish have a creek. That's really it.
So great idea. I'm for it. I'm sure everybody else is up for it. The only concern I would have is liability for injury.
Yeah, I'll sign whatever we sign.
Not that we don't trust you using the chains.
No, totally get it. Understood. I mean, so it's me, another friend who actually works for the state as a land management worker, like this is what he does all day. He works on wildlife management areas, cut trees, mowing fields, things like that. Me, Sean Coleman would probably be helping out. So it'd be us, Ben Keys, who works for the state, and me. You guys running. We've all worked on farms. We've all worked for landscaping crews. We have experience with this equipment, things like that. And we're willing to, we'll take on that responsibility. If we get hurt, it's on us. I'm volunteering my time to the city. I'm not expecting the city to be responsible for me if I make a mistake. So, not a problem. As far as I'm concerned, I'll sign your waiver or whatever you got. I'm sure there's something I'll have to fill out. That's fine. I'm okay with that.
Miss Meg's.
Yeah, I'm cool with that. Whatever, send it my way. I'll get it signed.
Anybody have any
questions or
concerns, questions?
You have any questions?
I do.
Yeah.
Where it terminates at Indian Cabin, are you expecting people to get out there, be able to load their kayaks, their boats, whatever the case may be? And you did mention a second part of it that someone else is already clearing. Where's that at?
It's from my understanding.
Moss Mill to the road that goes to the lake, but it leads to Renault's. From
Okay.
Moss Mill.
Indian Cabin.
It's Landing Creek
I
from
guess
Moss Mill to
it's
Indian
not
Cabin.
actually-
It's definitely not Indian Cabin, but
Technically not Indian Cabin.
it's what's
It
the
is.
actual,
Everybody-
what's the actual?
Okay.
But the street that comes out the back, you know where the parking lot is, the road that comes back and you hit Raymond where.
So that's where it would
that road,
technically
that
end
bridge.
that they would offload or unload or whatever the case may be.
So his plan was to go from Mossville to there. So he had already, I guess, planned for people coming in and out there. My thought was that's a decent spot to do it because you can drop boats there and park in the parking lot. You don't have to park on Mossville Road.
Right.
That was one of the concerns I had with that plan, which I'm all for him doing his plan. But there has to be a spot where you can park a car.
Right.
So that, to me, that's the lake parking lot is already there. And that's a good access point. I think, unless you have something.
No, and I second that with the lake park, and I was just curious on if that's.
It's not the bridge directly behind the lake parking. It's further down the road.
Right.
Only because that creek is, I walked both of these creeks. The one that comes directly out of the lake is a lot narrower and a lot more choked with brush and things like that. It's not as suitable to actually kayak down. And it doesn't connect with the other plan that's already been proposed. So that's why I chose to propose it to go from Indian Cabin, or whatever the actual name is, to Clark's Lane.
Okay.
And as compared to the bridge that's like directly behind the parking lot. Because that creek is just too narrow, too shallow, too choked with brush. It wouldn't work as well, in my opinion.
And anybody using the Moss Mill would have to get dropped off.
Yeah, they would have to park somewhere else.
They get dropped off.
They obviously
and then
can't park on the
yeah,
side, of Clark's Lane, right? I mean, sorry, Moss Mill, right?
Okay. That's all I got.
Ryan, did you have anything else to add? I see you looking at your map there.
Yeah, no, I mean, I understand what he's saying. I think the stream guidance document is huge.
Yeah.
Mr. Blankenship, I'll get your contact information and then we'll be in touch about the agreements you're gonna need to sign.
Sounds good. Any other questions? Nate?
No, but a little bit of trivia, which I did mention before, Riley did do a massive cleanup project in the area of the lake, and he actually has a date in there.
Yeah.
I was gonna look it up before you came, but I forget. You know what it is?
I believe it's in June.
It's
I don't know the exact date.
a Riley one.
It's not a big encouragement. All right.
Well, we're gonna make
So yeah, I have no project.
So,
I think it's forever. I have one guy that celebrates every year.
so, we'll hold off on the resolution. I'm
Yeah,
going to
yeah,
favor
no,
of it until we get all the facts in line, all the paperwork,
Understood.
all,
Yeah.
signed and everything.
Yep.
And then hopefully next meeting, if not, we'll have one.
Yeah, the only request I have is that we move relatively quickly, because I don't want to be doing it in August when I'm gonna get covered things.
Yeah.
I'd rather, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, that's fine, and I can talk to you guys, at the end of the meeting, give my information out and then we go from there. That works.
And then I just have one more in. And Candace was the brain, the landscaping brain outside. Keith was the blonde.
Yeah.
Candace was the brains. And so Candace did a good job.
Oh, yeah, what we decided to do, and we talked about this with the NPP grant and really making Egg Harbor City look cohesive. And we always love the River Rock, and it brings peace and tranquility. So when we told Keith, we were like, oh, let's do it on like Leatherheads, and then we talked about doing it here. So when people pull up, it's relaxing, and then we can put maybe some, we don't want to put a lot of flowers, but we'll put some in pots. So I'm from the NPP grant, I'm the coordinator, and I just want to tell you some great things that are happening from the grant. We talked about having e-cards for everyone, and tonight it is actually on the docket, on your agenda, to put $2,500 into the e-cards, which will go directly to our merchants. We have NPP stores. As long as they have a credit card, they'll be able to accept this voucher. It's actually going to be on your phone. So what we hope to do is to spur on volunteers when they come out. Instead of going to go get pizza, they're going to get a gift card to go to the Firehouse Pub to get their hair cut. And all of this is from grant money. So it's a win-win for the merchants and for the people that come out. And also residents will be able to purchase gift cards, buy one, get one half. So they would be able to get almost a 1.5 of their purchase because it's off of the grant money. So that's going to be great. Pet Base is going to do it, right? He's going to have people out there saying, come on, let's clean up some trash. And then after we clean up trash, we'll actually be able to give our residents, especially the residents that are looking for something to do during the day. So I think this is going to be a great project. It's called Love Where You Live. And then our second project that we're really excited about, we just finalized a lot of these details this week, is bringing the Stockton Sustainable Farm to have a farmer's market 8 weeks out of the summer. It would start on June and finish at the end of July. They are actually planting specific herbs for our Egg Harbor City market. So for instance, the different kinds of Spanish herbs or potatoes that grow in the ground. So instead of going all the way down to Pleasantville, all of our residents will be able to come over here and get all this variety of fruits and vegetables, which is right up our alley. Because if we're not growing them and selling them for free, then at least they can come up. And the great thing that I worked out with our director is all of Stockton cannot receive money from the produce. It all has to be donated. So we're going to put a basket for donated. People can actually give money. And the money, our director figured out that we can actually put this back into our gift cards. So many people go up to the festival. It's going to be an open air market. We're going to have music. We're going to have vendors out there. And this is really sparking that. And it's in between Weizsäckers and Leatherheads, before I forget. That's where we had to go to a public. We tried to do it into one of our buildings, but I talked to Angela about this. We need a memorandum of understanding, which means that the public, and you'll see this in probably the next round on the agenda, to get approved over there. Stockton wants to make sure that we have insurance for that property. Whereas if we went into one of our buildings, like we originally were going to do, the business owner would have to hold insurance, and that was not going to work for some of our business owners.
So you're saying between Weizsäckers and Firehouse?
Oh, Crosswords.
Crosswords,
Okay.
yeah.
We've thought about this idea for many years. So.
Yeah, that's what you threw me off when you said that. I thought we were talking about the end block.
Oh, yeah, so we're really going to jazz that up, and NPP is going to buy our own tent. And so that's going to be a great time of bringing the community together. And also some of the restaurants that I spoke to are going to come down and purchase some of those vegetables because there's such an abundance of fruits and vegetables in the summer. So we really want to get it to the people that need it. And then, yeah, I think that's about it. Just all the landscaping, the flowers are going to go out before Easter, not the big ones that we liked, but we're going to do, spruce up the avenue. And from the Coalition for a Safe Community, we put our walls up for the greenhouse, and we just need to put up the windows, and that'll be done next week. So that's really coming along good. So I think I mean, what I'm hearing tonight is there's a lot of positive things happening in Egg Harbor City. And we're just so thankful that we get to see to change it and be the change. Because no one tells us like, oh, you should go do this, you should do this. We have people coming to volunteer their time because they love nature, they love the city, they love to see people out there enjoying it. And that's the same thing with our gardens here, with the Philadelphia Avenue, and I'm just looking forward to a great season. And we have a garden meeting on Saturday. I'll be out there with Kim too. We are actually doing a great project at the log cabin to make it wheelchair accessible, which has always been on our hearts, and I spoke to Keith about this. He's been great, like getting all of the plans together. So that's what we're doing. We're gonna move some mulch around on Saturday, 10 o'clock, over at the water tower. That's about it.
10 o'clock on Saturday?
Isn't it this
That's when
Saturday?
the meeting is.
Yes, that's a garden meeting. You guys want to come to that at the water tower?
I don't know how long it's going to be.
Yeah, we have a whole bunch of little projects to do. But yeah, if you guys want to come, that'd be great, and just a lot of good things happening.
Thank you.
Candace, do you need, did you get your information that you needed?
Yes, so far. But Angel and I will work on that still a little bit more. Okay, thanks a lot, everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah, I guess just one last thing real quick. I had written I think I mentioned the mayor's wellness walk. We're still working on that logistically, because I didn't actually walk it. I felt that it was too long and it was a little dangerous being out in a wooded area where, you know, if you're a, you know, the kind of person that, you know, doesn't carry a gun, which none of us do, you shouldn't really be out in the woods in a wooded area with no homes around by yourself. I was by myself. I don't care. I walk by myself all the time, but some people might, like a senior citizen or whatever, not to discriminate, but, you know. So Keith and I are working on tweaking that a little bit, and as I walked it, I noticed that there was no crosswalk on Deezerwig to across Philadelphia Avenue. So I wrote a letter to the county to ask them if they would put a crosswalk there. And actually that's the start of our proposed bike path, which I still have yet to get an update from CME about it, but I'm working on it.
From the preliminary plans they were incorporating that.
Yeah, so the county said, yes, they're going to look at that as they look at the bike path, you know, where they're going to strike that and line that and all that. So everybody knows where I'm talking about, right next to the water treatment plant, right across Philadelphia Avenue. So that'll be a nice asset to the city. So that's all I have to.
Thank you. All right, moving on to council committee chair reports. We'll start with safety, Councilman Dreyfus.
When we're having a meeting week at the 11th, I'll get in contact with all the parties involved, and if they give me all the emails.
Thank you.
Yeah. The second thing, throwing it out there, the Egg Harbor City Fire Department's ladder truck was when I was still in high school. I'm 15 now, so just just thinking it's tired. So just let the council know it's tired. So there should be something on our radar very shortly. That's all I have.
Thanks, sir. Councilwoman Heiss is not in attendance for highway or property parks and playgrounds. There is an email going around about the property at Firehouse.
Angela was gonna bring it up under her report.
Okay, that's fine. We'll get to it then. Councilman Dash Code.
Code enforcement, there's nothing to report yet. The quarterly report's due out next week. We're also setting up a tentative meeting on April 4th in the morning, and I'll contact all the committee members when it's finalized.
All right. Councilman Wright, utility? No. Councilwoman Brown, license, ordinance, or school board?
I have nothing currently for either. I'll probably be setting up a meeting relatively soon with license and ordinances though.
All right, thank you. Councilman Timbers,
Welcome.
land use, and Aaron Haven?
There's nothing to report at this time.
Thank you. Meg, Jeff?
No, there was a meeting. I was on vacation.
I think we talked about it already.
Okay. And Councilwoman Hesse, sustainable Egg Harbor City?
Just a couple things. Mike Sheraton decided to have the Lake Nature Trail cleanup in conjunction with citywide cleanup. And they just discussed Arbor Day festivities in Lincoln Park. We're just going to have 3 different retail vendors, 2 native and 1 vegetable plant sale. And there'll be a speaker there, along with the introduction of the labels for the trays and planting a tray. And that's it.
Thank you. I have nothing right now for finance and redevelopment. Moving on to CFO report. Moving on to city clerk report.
I just want to adjust the agenda to add one more resolution of support for the Wawa site. There is a slab there, what do you call it, a pad site that would like to put in for support for a license. They're going to try to obtain one as well. Again, these are just resolutions of support. We're not authorizing anything, but it's part of the process in order to obtain a license. So we can do it at that time with the rest of them, but it will be for the Wawa pad site, Philadelphia Avenue and Atlantic Avenue. And the other thing is the rabies clinic is this Saturday at the Public Works Garage, which is 1001 Chicago Avenue. It's from 10 to 12. You'll also be able to license your pet there. So come out. You don't have to be a Egg Harbor. Anybody can get the rabies shot. Any pet can get the rabies shot. Cat dog. We allow, other than Egg Harbor City residents, if you know anybody that needs, will be out there from 10 to 12. Saturday.
Do you have an LLC for that Wawa pad site?
Yes, what is that?
The Egg Harbor City Cannabis LLC.
Yes.
Do you know what type of license they're applying?
I think retail.
Is it micro or is it
That I don't know.
And so what it is the company is going to control the site and they will put people on the site that have their license. That's how it's supposed to go down.
Thank you. That's everything?
Yeah, so we'll just add that in at
Yeah,
the
I'm
time.
on them.
Okay.
City attorney report, Angela.
Thank you, Chairman. So we've had a very busy couple of weeks. As you can see from the agenda, we have 6, not 5, but 6 resolutions on cannabis. And their numbers 26 through 30, and then with the addition of the latest one will be 31.
30.
30 big.
30 big.
30 big. 30 big. And then there's a resolution terminating the designation of Energon as conditional redeveloper in order to free up the property for future development. And that's number 22. And then we have the firehouse. The firehouse people also want to rent the lot that we had previously rented to Leatherheads. You'll remember that the original contract was for 5 years. It was $500 for the first year, and then $1,000 for the succeeding years. And then we raised it $2,000, and then we waived it because of COVID. So if you're so inclined, we could do a resolution to approve the rental on a 5-year lease. We could put in 500, 1,000, 2,000, whatever you deem best. We can do that tonight, or we can do it at the next meeting.
They did come to City Hall. They thought that was part of their property. There was a little confusion, which anyway, it's not, and they understand now and want to use it as soon as possible because the weather's getting nice and.
So on 2020 and 2021, the fee was $2,000 a year. If you want to do a 5-year, starting with 2,000 and then increase it a little bit each year, or we could start at more than 2,000 and increase it a little bit each year. It's whatever you'd like to do.
Wasn't originally the contract also included maintaining that flower area?
It's in the agreement.
So that would still be in the agreement?
Yeah,
or
that's
would
still in
be-
the agreement.
If they agree.
Well, they agreed to, I let them look at the lease for Leatherheads, and they agreed with that. They said they are struggling a little bit, like just still with the. They want to move forward and use the property, and I made them aware that I showed them, so we saw all the conditions. There's more in it than just maintaining it. There's a lot of things, and I'll send it out to everybody to look at. But they did, I mean, Lisa Leatherheads took very good care of it, and I did explain to them that was part of it, that was she maintained, and in addition maintained the other corner that I think that you guys maintain now,
She
right?
decided she couldn't do it anymore, so then she.
Yeah, we're
It all
maintaining
came
that
down
part
as
now.
to COVID too. I mean, it was about.
They asked for a specific rate.
They didn't, did that?
No, they liked what was in the agreement.
Well, the original agreement was $500 the first year. The second and the third would be 1,000, and then the fourth and fifth would be 2,000.
And they do have to provide insurance certificate, that's in that.
Right, we all
agreement.
have that on the agreement.
So I would suggest that the original contract be sent around for everyone to review, so they know the details of it before we move on the resolution.
Well, I think the problem is that they want to use the outdoor dining.
Right.
and they
Yeah.
can't use it
Understandable.
Unless this
Okay.
is, or
It's 14 days.
council wants to approve something, that they could use it, I don't even know if that's possible. Temporary use of a public.
I don't think that's possible. But, I mean, it's only 2 weeks. Chairman said so. I prepared the agreement for your eyes only, send it around, take a look at it. If we change the fees, let me know. We'll have it ready for the next meeting. Does that work?
I pretty much think they might have been using it. So we may have to.
Tell them to
reach out
stop using it. Wait 2 weeks.
Yeah, I'm all for it. I approved it the first time,
Okay.
Is it still open for Lisa? Like, would she still, are the years still open for it right
Well,
now?
we waived the fees.
Technically, it's still open.
That's what I'm
Technically, it's
saying,
still under her
Like,
lease.
since,
Should be
you
attached to it.
know what I'm saying?
There was a,
The
vote, but there was
5
a
years
vote,
isn't up yet.
there was a vote 2 years ago that event was up.
How long does that lease go for?
I think it's expired because it only went to 2021. So I think
Okay.
they just wait a couple.
I was
weeks.
just hoping maybe we could let them use it till we revisit it, but no.
I just want everybody to have the knowledge of the
Yep.
contract.
Yeah.
That's all.
Okay. So moving on to the introduction of 3 ordinances. We'll start with 31, which is the prohibition of left turns, K turns, and U-turns across the double yellow line into the parking spaces on Philadelphia Avenue. This is what I discussed a couple of weeks ago. I think it's necessary, so I asked for it to be approved for publication and introduction this week. The next one is the landlord registration and the landlord rental responsibility ordinance. This went through committee, there were changes made in the committee, and this is the draft that was approved by the committee. It's basically a registration and an inspection ordinance. It also provides for landlord responsibilities and bonding if the landlord does not take his job seriously. And it's extensive, the ordinance. It provides for maintenance, it provides for inspection as well. And it does not apply to 1 or 2 unit owner occupied premises pursuant to the statute. So anything else, it doesn't apply to. And then the next ordinance would be the revisitation of the short-term rentals, which if you recall, we introduced this late last year. And this is for the alleged Airbnbs or the short-term rentals, 28 days or less. We also provide for registration, it provides for inspection, it provides for fees. And I thought in conjunction with the new rental ordinance, there would be a good tie-up of the city, good tie-in to the city regulation. So we have the short term, and now we're fully regulating the long-term rent. So we have all the rentals regulated in the city. And that's also for your consideration and introduction. Anybody have any questions?
All right.
That's it. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Ryan, engineers report.
Yeah, I'm gonna be real short. 2 things, New York Avenue, the section between Route 30 and Atlantic Avenue. South State is going to, I believe, tomorrow.
Yes.
They're planning on going out there and milling that area and restoring it to grass. Promised to do that like 11 years ago and never did it. So we're getting them to do it for free since we let them use the property during construction. So it went well. The other is from the 304 block Chicago, Avenue, everyone knows you know, how we always sit there. We applied for money like a year ago, didn't hear anything, finally got a submitted modification project when we got that. Last week, I got a letter that said our funding application was approved a year later. So they're gonna cancel the modification project limits. We have $120,000 extra dollars. We're gonna go back to the original contractor, do the profile mill and overlay that we've been talking about, and we'll probably do that for the next 6 weeks. So, yeah, that was good news. Would have been nice if they let us know somewhere in between, they were still considering it, but, you know, I'll take it. So that's it, unless there are any other questions.
Any questions or anything for Ryan? All right, moving on to Mr. Adams, public works report.
So again. I'm gonna be brief as well too, so, just to get us all out of here in time. So I do want to add one thing to New York Avenue. So if anybody here remembers that New York Avenue is actually named after Bishop Candy. So that sign is gonna come down, because it's gonna be vacated. I'd like to just hand the sign to him and he can put it on his section of New York Avenue if anybody has any issue with that, but. Because he did ask today what was gonna happen with the sign. And I was like, I'm just thinking of the New York Avenue sign, I'm like, take it down. And then I walked over, I was like, that was
Maybe on the other one.
First Terrace is what I was thinking, but move it to First Terrace, but we can revisit that. Just so it gets taken down, we'll take it until, you know, we decide what we're gonna do. So Public Works, just a few cleanup items. Our grader that's been down for 11 months is back up and running. So this is something that we've been kind of back and forth on. Should we fix, shouldn't we fix? We had somebody come in, take a look at it, and I haven't got the bill yet, but I want to say it was cheaper what we actually had. So now we'll be able to go back out and start doing around the lake, start doing the long roads out to Clark's Landing, the small section of dirt road in town. We've been moving some dirt out there in preparation to try to smooth some of these roads out. And so that's one thing that's fixed. Our stormwater, I don't know if that's on the agenda tonight, but that is something that was, it is. So that work, I believe, Jerry and I went through it again today just to verify that we had it all done. I think we're there where we could satisfy that and put that in. It was a lot of work, a lot of effort to get that done. Property inspections continue, so just one property inspection, which I sent her to Jerry today, was for our public works yard that we had to submit that we're doing. I believe they're quarterly for the stormwater. There was 5 things that were written up on that, all 5 of them are done, so they are starting to work while we're seeing things are getting went out, they're getting fixed. Again, starting over, we're going to be starting to take on the responsibility of QRAC again soon with the mowing of QRAC, all of our landscaping projects. We're going to go back into full mode of that, so it's going to get pretty busy here. I did hear about the Lincoln Park as far as, well, I didn't hear about it, I was reading about it as far as it being asked to be used out. I have 100 ballards painted white with 2 coats of white on right now. I am destined to fix that. I was there, I was on a rant, but destined to fix it. They were donated to us. We painted them white. I'm gonna go up there and we're gonna do the best we can. We've locked out, we fixed some of the electrical boxes. We're gonna do the best we can up there to try to make it look.
I just have a question about the electric. Is it always on? And does it have to always be on?
So there's no light there. We took the bulb down there because it kept getting broke and I didn't want to be it.
I mean, the receptacles.
Yeah.
It's
they're
always
always-
on.
yeah, always on. Yeah. So that's one of my projects we're gonna put forth there. For the month that we've been discussing, we have 6 days of street sweeping. Knock on wood, it's gonna go out for a 7th without breaking. Starting this Monday, we're gonna get back on our Monday schedule for street sweep. That's something that we have signage for. It just got kind of put by the wayside. We're not doing it. So every Monday now you're gonna see a street sweeper out bright and early, or up the avenue trying to keep up on that. Rotary Park, we have an area that both when we looked at, I believe the state insurance fund and also JIF, when we did our walkthroughs there, the amount of mulch that we have to put down and strip grass out is astronomical for the landing zones and that and the other stuff. We're just gonna basically go in and strip all the grass out, make a gigantic crop circle and mulch over there. And we're gonna end up moving the sign that was donated for John's End, and we're gonna make some sort of display for that, thinking something like an elevated 45-degree angle out in front of the Rotary Park sign, because anywhere I put it is in the fall zone, so it has to go outside the park. So we're gonna make sure it's secure and put out there, along with the plaque that we have for Frankly Deck.
Oh,
It's gonna go back up to the gazebo and be dedicated to him where it should be, because he's probably one of those the most hours ever donated to that gazebo. Utility department, we had 47 water and sewer related calls. One of them involving a car that took out one of my hydrants, that's Second Parish, and Burger Street. We got a price on a hydrant, waiting on availability right now for that. So right now, that's down now. We had 152 requests for markouts, including long-term or long-running projects, Fifth Parish. So they're now coming through, and they're going to do gas from Atlantic Avenue to Easter Street. It's a project they get marked and located. It's stuff that grows over and has not been touched for 5-10 years. And here we are looking through it in sticker bushes for water service. So we're working on that. The water quality.
What street was I going to do?
Fifth Parish.
Fifth, thank you.
Yeah. The Water Quality Accountability Act, the favorite act of all of us in this room here, that they came out with an amendment. So I talked to Ryan today. One of the things that they're asking to include in that is a update on the capital improvement plan that Ryan and R&D are to help us with. The second is, even though that our SCADA system is not tied to the internet, now they're saying that us having no plan because we're not tied to the internet is basically not good enough. So now we have to devise a plan for cybersecurity and have some sort of insurance or cybersecurity plan. So we're now in the early stages of looking into that. And with that, the DEP came, our inspection went through. We had a couple little minor hiccups. Other than that, they were impressed with our facility. They were impressed with the town's efforts. We had one violation that was taken out 3 days after it was put in, based on the fact that it was wrongdoing. A lot of positive comeback from that, and that's all I got.
Before you go, Keith,
Yes.
2 questions.
All right.
How much does the hydrant cost?
The hydrant is $2,950. The land tax is $75, and it's probably a day's labor for us to hand day and put it in, because it's between the sidewalk and curb in the street. The good thing is the motors that hit it had no insurance and no registration, so we're on the hook for that one.
And last question.
Yes.
Water Quality Accountability Act requirement for cybersecurity. Is that going to increase our surcharge in any way?
So no, should be a relatively plan. It's basically saying now formally that we do not use internet-based communication back and forth outside of the plant. And we're going to try to go ahead and just see if they'll take that, but it should have no other impact.
Couple things. With the field, Sanders Field?
Yes.
Summertime, can we just not cut it so low?
Okay.
I mean, I can't remember the last time I got seeded, so it's been years. So, but most of it's weeds, so it's actually durable enough for the football.
Okay.
But the problem is it gets burned up so quick, because we only turn the sprinklers on at night.
Okay.
So, you know, if you get a hot day like that and the sun is based on, so we can just keep it up a little higher.
Is that just in the football area, the whole thing you're saying?
Just in the football, mainly the football. Field.
Okay.
And then September, I mean, when you guys start cutting it in September, we can cut it on Thursdays. So, because I line the field on Fridays.
Okay.
And then we can cut it a little shorter.
Based on rain, like Wednesday, Thursday, but you know.
Yeah, well, the thing is they used to cut it on Mondays, and then I go to line the field and knee-high grass and try to play a football game on Saturday. So that's why we try to get them to cut it on Thursdays. I line the field on Friday, game days on Saturday.
Okay.
Still cut.
Yeah.
Mason, can I just say something? The reason, remember we talked about this with Gary had that issue? Public Works was gonna clean it on Mondays after the football games, on Sundays.
Right. What's that?
So, but they were gonna do it at the same time they were cutting, correct? So is it now gonna be possible to do that on Mondays?
Well, the problem is that grass, whatever it is out there, grows so fast. By game day, the grass grows to the kids. Yeah, it's up to the kids' needs. That's the issue that we have.
So why don't we'll talk about cleaning up as far as after
Sunday process. I mean, we can cut the whole rest, I mean, I don't care about the baseball field, Chicago Avenue, you can cut that whenever you want, it's just mainly the game field. Is all
I got a guy who loves Mount Hatfield, so.
Yeah, that's the only spot I care about. Yeah.
Anything else?
No, that's it.
All right. Thank you, guys.
All right, moving on, number 16, Christ Wesleyan Church, 800 Philadelphia Avenue, is asking for use of Lincoln Park for Good Friday service, April 15th, 2022, from the hours of 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. and Easter sunrise service on the 17th of April from 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. May I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
All in favor? 17, we're going to table. Moving on to 18. To amend the personnel policy, amend exempt employees overtime compensation policy. If there's no questions, comments, or concerns, I have a motion. Second. Roll call, please.
Brown,
Yes.
Dash,
Yes.
Hesse,
Yes.
Sefton.
Yes.
Timbers,
Yes.
Tricol,
Yes.
Wright,
Yes.
Ritchie.
Yes. Number 19 is a resolution for amending the salary resolution of 2022. If there's no questions, comments, I have a motion. Second. Roll call, please.
Brown,
Yes.
Dash,
Yes.
Hesse,
Yes.
Sefton.
Yes.
Timbers,
Yes.
Tricol,
Yes.
Wright,
Yes.
Ritchie.
Yes. Number 20 is a resolution to establish a change fund in the amount of $250 for the lake. If there's no questions, comments, everybody motion.
Make it work.
Second. Roll call.
Brown,
Yes.
Dash,
Yes.
Hesse,
Yes.
Sefton.
Yes.
Timbers,
Yes.
Tricol,
Yes.
Wright,
Yes.
Ritchie.
Yes. Number 21 is a resolution to renew the contract for vehicle maintenance and repair services. Contract period from May 1st, 2022 to April 30th of 2023 with Highway Motors. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Roll call.
Brown,
Yes.
Dash,
Yes.
Hesse,
Yes.
Sefton.
Yes.
Timbers,
Yes.
Tricol,
Yes.
Wright,
Yes.
Ritchie.
Yes. Number 22 is the resolution that Angela spoke on terminating the termination of the designation of Energon University as conditional redeveloper for the tower site redevelopment area.
Motion. Question.
Yes.
When this came up initially, I voted against it, and then, and I had some reservations simply because I tried to look up and find out who Energon is and what they do and where their business is located. And then after that, I was contacted by the company. They wanted to do presentations. They even came here, they did a presentation, made a big deal about what they're gonna do. They're gonna raise some fish. And we voted for it, right? And now it's like, a year later, we come back and all of a sudden, we're not happy with them. And my only issue with this really is the Acme site. So the Acme site, where, you know, they got kids skateboarding in it because they haven't developed it, done anything with it. They wanted to do like an online car thing, but it's still sitting there like decrepit, right? And no one's coming saying, hey, let's terminate that. I'm trying to understand why we want to terminate this one before terminating the Acme site, who my understanding is now wants to do meat. So I'm really trying to understand.
Well, you don't have to try because Angela and I already talked about it, and that was what I had requested that be done to
The
that
Energon?
property, but Angela said, what did you say, Angela? They have a contract still, it hasn't expired and.
Right. The Acme site.
The Acme site, right.
Two separate things. The Acme site is privately. Exactly. So there's a redevelopment plan, but they're not doing anything with it, but it's privately owned. Somebody just wants to own it for the next 20 years, not doing it. That's their problem. It is for sale, is my understanding now. The guy who was trying to move forward with the previous development does not seem to be moving forward as the property for sale. So it seems like it's going to move in a different direction soon. The tower site is owned by the city, so you guys are in control of that site. You have the ability to rescind and take control back. Because we're not, happy with the performance of the redevelopment. And it essentially came down to we couldn't agree to terms of the agreement. Back and forth 15 times, and it was all right. Well, here's the final version. We got to sign this one. And then they said yes, and they sent us a version that was different. Okay, no. So
And they never put up any money on escrow. So you're spending money on professionals to do work which they should have been done, which they should have been paying for, and they didn't pay for anything.
I'm not surprised. I just
I was so confused.
Yeah, that's the difference, is you control that site. That's the beauty of having a redevelopment plan on the property. You know, we always say this, the city's in control. We are, and we're exercising that control right here. You can see that. For a privately owned site, you don't have that same level.
But he still is designated, there still is a redevelopment plan on that property.
There
That
is.
hasn't expired, and he's designated the redeveloper. And I think that's Carl's issue, he would like to remove that designation, but maybe Angela could explain it better
Well,
than I'm explaining.
it doesn't really,
Privately anything.
yeah, it doesn't really add any value to the property because that entity is designated as the redeveloper. If someone else buys that property, they're not entitled to the same redevelopment plan because they're not the redeveloper. They can come to council and petition to be designated a redeveloper, but you don't have to make them. So he's selling that property with, essentially, we interpret it as the underlying zoning that was there before we did the redevelopment plan. That's what controls the site. So he's selling that site just as a site in the highway commercial zone.
Excuse me, is number 30, isn't that the Acme site? The resolution?
Yes.
That is the Acme site, correct? So
Yeah,
he's
that's-
selling it and he's trying.
That's a different, that's not the same person. The Brittany Woods' company is not the current owner of the site.
No, it's just somebody who inquired about purchasing it,
Oh, I see.
who would like to know.
Or like to turn it into.
Yeah, right.
Correct. So a new entity would like to purchase that property and procure it.
Potential.
I thought it was the same person.
Yep.
Thank you.
Does that answer your question, Councilman? Councilwoman Hesse, does that answer your question?
Yes.
All right, with no other questions or comments, may I have a motion? Second. Roll call, please.
Brown,
yes,
Dash.
Yes.
Hesse.
Yes.
Sefton.
Yes.
Timbers.
Yes.
Trithol.
Yes.
Wright. Ritchie.
Yes. Numbers 23 and 24 are resolution authorizing roadway solicitation for the Egg Harbor City Fire Department on the dates of May 20th, 2022 and August 28th, 2022. There's no objection. May I have a motion? Make a motion. All in favor?
Aye.
I just need two separate resolutions
Oh, sorry.
for the county, sorry.
All right, may I have a motion for number 24?
Sorry.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
You're welcome. Number 25 is a resolution for approving the updated stormwater pollution prevention plan. Any questions or comments? Motion, please. Make a motion. Second,
Forget.
all in favor?
Aye.
And you're going to need an individual resolution for each one. We'll go to number 26. 26 through 30A are all of the resolutions that Angela spoke on with the cannabis. So number 26, support for suitability of state licensed cannabis business Brother X LLC for Raymond Avenue. May I have a motion?
Make a motion. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Number 27, support for suitability of a licensed cannabis for Soul Lit LLC.
Make a motion. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
28, support for suitability for Emerald Leaves LLC.
Make a motion.
Second. All in favor? 29, support for suitability for Wizzies NJ LLC.
Make a motion. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
30, support for suitability of Bacon Fest LLC.
Make a motion. Second.
All in favor? And this is the last. Yeah, this is the last. Yeah, Egg Harbor City Cannabis, support for suitability.
Make a motion.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Hey, I'm not gonna.
All right.
How about some weed?
Moving on to 31, introduction of ordinance number 2, 2022. Again, the ordinance Angela spoke on amending the code of the city of Egg Harbor, chapter 159, adding section 17 prohibiting left-hand turns, K-turns, and U-turns across double yellow lines in parking spaces on Philadelphia Avenue. There's no objections or no one has any questions or comments. Maybe we have a motion to introduce. All in favor? Aye. I have a motion to advertise on March 30th in the Hamilton Gazette for introduction of a public hearing on April 7th, 2022. All in favor?
Aye.
Number 32 is the introduction of ordinance number 3, 2022, amending and supplementing the municipal code of the city of Egg Harbor, entitled Rental Property Registration and Landlord Rental Responsibility by creating chapter 267, establishing a registration requirement for rental properties. There's no objection, there's no questions or comments, may I have a motion? Second, all in favor?
Aye.
May I have a motion to advertise this notice of introduction in the Hampton Gazette on the 30th for hearing on the April 7th? So moved. Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Alright, and moving on to the fourth ordinance of 2002, introduction of amending chapter 170 of the municipal code of the city of Egg Harbor, short-term rental. There's no objections or no comments? Yes.
I don't agree with it. How would I say this?
It's just an introduction, so the public hearing will be April 7th. I
Yes.
mean.
So
we're just
this is
introducing
moving to it. Okay.
Yes.
That's fine.
Yep.
Not just an introduction, it's an introduction.
There's no other questions or comments. May I have a motion to introduce? Second? All in favor? Nay. Alright, there's two nays. Three, two or three. Mason, Councilman Wright and Councilwoman Hesse.
We're still in that.
Yeah.
I would send is there concerns that they addressed with you that could be?
We could address them on 7.
Okay.
Or you can email me, whatever you feel comfortable with.
All right. May I have a motion to advertise this notice of introduction in the Gazette on the 30th for April 7th? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. May I have a motion to pay the bills?
Make a motion.
Second. Roll call, please.
Brown,
Yes.
Dash,
Yes.
Hesse,
Yes.
Sefton,
Yes.
Timbers,
Yes.
Tricol,
Yes.
Wright,
Yes.
Richie.
Yes. Mayor, the floor is yours for any final comments.
Just one thing, I know we're gonna meet before this, but on April 9th, the Rotary Club will be having their Sam Weiner Memorial Easter egg hunt. Those of you who don't know Sam Weiner, he used to own 5% on your street. And he always was a big supporter of that event, and they named it after him, so that'll be on the 9th.
Thank you. All right, Councilwoman Sefton, any final comment?
No.
Councilwoman Brown?
Yes, I would like to say congratulations to Chief Owen. She is doing an awesome job. I love the changes I see going on with the police department. And I'm very proud of her, and I know she's going to keep up the good work. And that's about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Dash?
Just like to give a big shout out to Egg Harbor City Fire Department and the police department and the EMTs. The fire that was on Chicago Avenue was across the street from my house the other night. It was nice to see that they were there so quickly. They were very professional, and we were glad that no one was hurt.
Councilman Trifon?
I would just like to say congratulations to Chief Alwyn. Also, thank you, Mayor, for promoting Chief of Police. Going to serve us well. Thank you.
Councilman Timbers?
I want to say congrats to the chief. I've only been in Egg Harbor City about 6 or 7 years, and since I've been here, I've been more proud of our police department, and she's doing a stellar job. Just want to say that.
Thank you. Councilman Wright?
Just want to congratulate the chief. Long time coming. Really appreciate it. I mean, for what she does in this town, and can't wait to see what she has come forward. Congratulations again, chief.
Councilwoman Hesse?
I also wanted to congratulate the chief, and I just wanted to add something to what the mayor had said, about the Easter egg hunt. I was at the Rotary meeting, and Anthony Bauer and Tracy from Friends in Action will be partnering with the Rotary, and there will be 2,500 eggs this year. So it's going to be big eggs this year. That should be fun. Yes, it's gonna be a lot of eggs, and there's going to be small baskets and large prize baskets as well.
Awesome. I'd just like to finish with congratulations, Chief. Well deserved. Thank you, Mayor, for doing it. The city needed it, and she's a great person to be in that role. I think I can speak on everyone up here that we definitely appreciate you and her for the steps that have been made in the manner they have been made. Also with the budget, great job, council. We, like I said, digest it, look at it, and then we'll revisit. So with that, I'll open it up to the public for any final comments.
Yes, please.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, I just wanted to let everyone know that we did send out letters to the homeowners affected by road programs, asking them if they want a tree planted in front of the yard. They have until March 30th to return them before we open it up to other locations. And I had a question, I hate to beat a dead horse, but on resolution 30, Vacabest, is at 111 New York Avenue for cannabis. I guess that's retail. Is there any frontage on the White Horse Pike?
Yeah, that's the Acme site.
Yeah,
Yes,
I know it's the Acme site, but is it on the Pike or is it on New York Avenue?
It has frontage on both. There's
Oh,
frontage
okay.
to Route 30.
All right. And I agree with Councilman Timbers that that redevelopment plan or that redevelopment designation should be abolished before he sells his property to avoid any confusion with a new buyer. You could start from scratch if they ask for a redevelopment plan. But, you know, that property owner hasn't done anything the whole time he owned it. And I think it should be rescinded.
So we do get inquiries pretty regularly from prospective buyers, and we let them all know that we would interpret anything that they brought to the city under the highway commercial zone. So.
Thank you, Ms. Galloway. Is that everything?
Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else from the public?
Tracy. I got a comment, please.
1 second. We have somebody in person that's speaking.
Oh, thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sandy Hickerson. I'm a representative of the Garden State Second Amendment Grassroots Organization. I have to say, I love hearing the frogs. It's not every council meeting you go to and you hear the frogs. Okay, so I was here a year ago, March of 2021. You know, pandemic. I apologize for taking so long for getting back to your council. But I just wanted to reintroduce this resolution supporting the law-abiding firearms owners here in Egg Harbor City and supporting the Second Amendment. I'm here to ask you again to adopt the Second Amendment resolution. This resolution is not law-binding. It doesn't change any existing laws. We do not support any gun violence in any way, obviously, right? This resolution is about the law-abiding responsible gun owners. Due to the laws in New Jersey, as you know, firearms owners were not allowed to carry, as the mayor started to mention a little bit earlier tonight. We're only allowed to keep our firearms in our homes for personal defense. So back in December of 2021, Governor Murphy had a storage bill that he was looking to get passed. That storage bill required us law-abiding citizens to keep our firearm unloaded, locked at all times. Your ammunition locked in a separate place at all times. And how in a time of an urgency would you be able to get out unlock your firearm, then go to another location, unlock your ammunition, then load your firearm, and be prepared to defend for your life? So it's because of laws like this that we're asking you to stand with the law-abiding citizens to stop some of these quote common sense gun laws that are coming down the pipeline. Do we need law and order regulation? Absolutely. You know, there are some folks that, you know, aren't mentally capable that should own a firearm. We all know that. But this is about the responsible firearms owners. So I would just ask you again to please consider this. I'm happy to see that you still have the same solicitor. She actually is familiar with this resolution. She was able to just write one out for Estelle Manor. Estelle Manor passed a resolution in November. Or I'm sorry, Buena. Sorry, I was at Buena Vista and Estelle Manor, all three in the same month, all passed this resolution. and just currently Hamilton Township just passed on Monday night. So I have here for you, I have copies of the resolution with, there's over 100 letters here of signed citizens from Egg Harbor City that I would like to turn to you tonight. These folks support this resolution, support the Second Amendment. Should I give them to you, Maria? Okay, thank you very much. So yeah, so I'm looking forward to getting this on the agenda for your next meeting. So thank you for listening. Oh, I'm sorry, did I say where I live?
No.
I'm sorry, I live at 210 Upland Avenue at Seacon here in Atlantic County. So thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. And I look forward to working with you. If you have any questions or comments or concerns, I'd be happy to try and answer those for you. If I do not know the answer, I'll do my best to get you the answer. So thank you very much.
Is that the copy of the resolution or is that?
No, this is my illustration. All these letters have, most of the letters, I'm sorry, I was trying to save a tree. Some of them don't have an actual resolution. Look for the state, look for the state. Over half of them have the resolution actually attached to it.
So if you could,
Yes.
email our city solicitor the resolution that you're looking at for her review.
I already have.
Okay.
Yes, she wrote it.
I read all of it.
She knows. And if you would like, sure, whatever you would like to do with them, to keep one for reference, absolutely. I think I did email everyone, and I think I attached the resolution in the email, if you look back at those. And I would be glad to email you again. If you want a copy of the county resolution that was passed in March of 2020, I can send you that. Or any municipality that's passed, there's 14 municipalities that have passed in Atlantic County so far. There's roughly 60 throughout the whole state, but 14 currently here in Atlantic County. So thank you again very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. How you doing, sir?
Hello, my name is James Cassis. I live at 6 Hollow Drive in Egg Harbor Township, New Jersey. I used to live in Egg Harbor City when I first got married. Moved down here, lived at 218B London Ave. I think it's a great city and a great place to live. Unfortunately, we just never had to find a house you want had to buy. The reason I'm up here, I know there's a lot of news about a lot of new gun laws and stuff like that. And what I ask people to remember, like three things our grandparents told us, never judge a book by its cover, right? The road to hell is paved in good intentions, and the devil's in the details. A lot of these gun bills that are coming up, they sound good on paper, but when you start breaking it down, you realize that there's issues with them. And a lot of these things are proposed by people who are not firearms owners. They don't understand the minutia of the intricacies of some of these things that they're asking for. For instance, the Firearms Safe Storage Act. If we have, in New Jersey, we have the right to self-defense in the home. It's held decision says you have the right to defend your home, inside your home. But with this gun storage bill, by forcing you to keep your firearms and your ammunition in two separate spots under lock and key, the actual ability to defend yourself becomes impossible. It's common sense. I don't have time to run from point A to point B, undo a combination, get my firearm, run back to my ammunition, undo that combination, load it to somebody who could be busting your door down. Right? Most gun owners keep their firearms and their ammunition in a safe nearby. You don't have, as it is, there's a burden right now to somebody pounding, trying to break down your door to actually go there, unlock, because usually upstairs in the bedroom, unlock it. It's already difficult already. Putting that impetus on a firearm owner will make it impossible. And actually, I believe that bill is actually to discourage people from owning firearms, because what's the sense of having a firearm for self-protection if you can't physically use it for its purpose because of the laws? So like I said, don't judge a book by its cover. The road to health is paved in good intentions, and the devil's in the details. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
There was a caller.
Yes, I think it's.
Tracy?
Yes, so just, I noticed the last two meetings that, we're not doing the, pledge allegiance, the flag salute anymore. And I think it's a really nice tradition, and I think it's very patriotic. And maybe I missed it, but the last 2 weeks. I
Tracy, the
didn't.
meeting started at 6 o'clock for a budget workshop.
Oh, okay, thank you. My apologies, thanks.
Anybody else from the public?
Does that help?
Yes, we do. Second? Second. All in favor? Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry. I had to-